You're the person the world needs. Life is changing, and the future is uncertain. You may not know how or why yet, but you know you're here to make a difference. You're not waiting for the universe to give you the answers. You're finding them for yourself. Challenging echoes with evidence. Few people have great ideas. Even fewer make them happen. It takes a dreamer, an explorer, a researcher, a leader, a thinker. It takes someone like you.
Well, good morning and welcome to the University of New South Wales. My apologies that we're running a few minutes late on the start. With so many staff and students flooding back to campus, it took me a few extra minutes to find a car park this morning, but we're back on track and we cannot wait to bring you our Career Advisors Seminar live from on campus. Before I commence, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Bidigal people, and acknowledge elders both past, present and emerging. In this digital context, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which you're sitting from all across New South Wales and in fact all across Australia. My name is Chris Lewis, I'm the Head of Future Student Recruitment. For those of you that I haven't met, it's a pleasure to meet you. For those of you that I haven't seen in person for many, many years, I can't wait to welcome you back onto campus and catch up with you over a coffee or in fact come out to your school. I think I've been telling the team I'll be planning to do some outreach this year because really I miss you all and I miss all of our students out there who are excited about joining us at UNSW. We have got a wonderful program lined up for you today. The team is all on hand. They're spaced out everywhere across the university. We're going to go live all over the place today. You're going to see all of your UNSW favourites. I've got Bianca, I've got Nick, I've got Hannah, and I've got some new team members as well to introduce you to, as well as lots of our academic leaders from around the campus. As I alluded to earlier, we've been really excited this week to welcome students back onto campus with a real life O week. Now it looks a bit quiet behind me on the main walkway at the moment, but it is Friday morning at 9 a.m. And we often find that students really try to avoid classes on a Friday morning. But you will see some students throughout the course of the week. We've had upwards of 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 students on campus last week during O week. So it's incredibly exciting for us. It's re-energizing in fact. And I really hope that you're all doing well and got a little bit of downtime over the Christmas period as well. We're back in person with as many of our classes as we possibly can this term. So this is week one of term. We're just about through it now. And we're really doing as many of our practical hands-on classes on campus as we possibly can in, of course, a COVID-safe manner. Speaking of COVID, this will be the last time that I mention it for the day, but really, would have loved to have welcomed you back onto campus. We hope to be able to get you back onto campus later in the year and we'll have a little bit more to follow on that as well. We are, of course, happy to come out and do outreach, come out and do school visits. Our policy allows us to do that now and we'll work with you on a case-by-case basis on what works best for your school as those policy sort of settings change. But we're ready to go and we're ready to work with you to make sure that your students have access to us here at the University of New South Wales. So, it's been a huge year and a huge intake, and I want to really thank you all. I know the work that goes into everything that you have to do. It's been a more complex recruitment cycle than ever before, with early offers, with early entry, with all sorts of other entry mechanisms out there in the market, and of course, students getting less and less time to make that decision. So thank you very much. I'd be really interested to hear your feedback on some of the early offer stuff that's happening out there in the market. Of course, UNSW continues to provide early offers for students from low SES backgrounds via our gateway pathway. But I would love to hear about some of the pressures that that potentially puts on you as educators, some of the schools recommendation schemes that are out there. We've certainly had a really strong representation from the Career Advisors Association around some of the complexities around that. So I would love to hear your feedback as we assess our position in that market as well. So what's coming up today? We're going to stream from across the campus. I'm going to be crossing shortly to Professor Merlin Crossley, our Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic, to welcome you formally on behalf of the university, as if I'm not formal enough. We're also going to update you on many of our double degrees and their connection to some of the career outcomes that you're looking for. We're going to go down to our business labs, our science labs. We're actually going down to one of our science labs, which is home to prehistoric skeletons, not academics, contrary to popular belief, but a real live dinosaur skeleton collection, which is really exciting. I'll take you through some admissions changes, some new courses shortly as well. And the last few pieces of housekeeping for me to tell you about are really to be aware that this does count as NESA elective PD. So off the back of this Career Advisor seminar, Bianca will send you out a certificate of attendance. If you did have to log in anonymously today and we don't know that you're here, firstly, welcome to you as well. Put your name in the chat box if you do ask us any questions so we know who you are. But Bianca will send out a certificate to you so that you can upload that to NESA and have it recognised as part of your professional development over the course of the day. Finally, I don't need to ask you to put your mobile phones on silent because I can't hear them in here, but I will say that there is lots and lots of room for questions. One of the things that is really important to us in this live event when we can't see you face to face and I can't see your smiling faces as you raise your hands is that you do have lots of opportunity to ask all of our team various different questions. So we will be pausing at various points in the program to answer as many of your questions live as we humanly can. So please put your questions in the chat and we will get back to you throughout the course of the event. But without any further ado, I'm going to cross live to Professor Merlin Crossley, a Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic, to welcome you on behalf of the university.
Hello everyone, I'm Merlin Crossley, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic and Student Life here at UNSW. It's terrific to have you all here online, and I want to thank you for all the work you've done. It's been a crazy sort of year, just like the year before it was crazy. A lot of things stopped, but young people didn't stop growing up. Education didn't stop. You had to move online, we had to move online, but we're back. At least we think we're back. We're looking forward to seeing everyone back. And I want to start by thanking you for making sure, for doing your absolute best to help the students prepare for university. We're looking forward to seeing another great cohort of students. We've had such strong interest in our courses again this year, and we can't wait to welcome people back to campus. And I really do want to thank you for all the extra work you've had to do, all the thoughtfulness and care to ensure that students kept learning, because they want to keep learning, they want to keep developing, they want to move out of their schools into the next chapter of their lives and keep on track. UNSW sort of managed pretty well over the transition. We're a slightly nerdy, geeky university. We were fairly strong on online learning, on digital support, on internet forums, and we moved online pretty well. We held the communities together, and we kept learning, just as the students kept learning. The students were actually quite happy, and the outcomes were very good over the last couple of years. We've learned a lot, and now we've learned the things which work best online, the things that work best on campus. At UNSW, a lot actually works well on campus. We're about the heart, hands, and the mind. We're about engineering, science, medicine, architecture, design, arts. We're about law, the social sciences, and we've got Canberra with the Australian Defence Force Academy. But we've always been a fairly forward-looking, practical, hands-on university. So we're really looking to getting students back into lab tutorials, labs, tutorials, getting them back into our programs, the labs in science, engineering, and I think I missed medicine before. We're very strong in medicine with our new precinct that's being built, which will join us up with the hospital. We're looking forward to see the students back, see them interacting with each other, and seeing them complementing their theoretical learning with hands-on learning, and seeing them make new communities, make new friends, new networks, and setting new goals for their future. We've always had very strong students applying to UNSW. We've tried to be as flexible as we can with our entry standards over the last couple of years to take as many students as possible, because we realize some students have been disadvantaged more than others over the last 2 years. We'll be full again. I think the international students are coming back a little bit slowly with the Omicron wave having hit, but they'll be back, I think, by the middle of the year. And we'll have a big, strong campus of the academics back and the students back. I want to finish by saying that your role is so important, because the world today, there's sometimes too much choice for students, and there seems to be too many options, and there are many, many pressures on the students. So your guiding hand can help them a lot. One of the things we try to do is offer a number of dual, double degrees. Often we say do 1 degree for your heart and 1 degree for your head. A lot of students will do that with us. They'll take 1 degree in something where they think the employment prospects are going to be excellent, and 1 degree for their love of learning. But other students will simply choose the love of learning and will prosper that way. So we have a range of programs. We have a wonderfully diverse population of students, and we're very grateful to all the different schools, all their teachers, and all your planning, which has kept everything on track during the last 2 years. And I think this year will be a wonderful year for all of us. Thank you very much. Have a great day with us.
Thank you very much, Merlin. And of course, I'll echo my excitement that we're back and we're ready to go for business. I can't tell you how exciting it is to be here amongst all of these new commencing students. Last week for O Week, this main walkway was buzzing with hundreds and hundreds of students, to the point where I couldn't even get a gig with the K-pop dance society. They were so oversubscribed. So we can't really wait to get them all back in the classroom. The other really interesting thing for us here at UNSW in 2022 is, of course, welcoming back our international students who are starting to arrive by the plane load. And we hope to see that continue to grow as our borders continue to open. In this last recruitment cycle, we've made as many positions available as possible for our domestic students and open up as many places in some of those high demand courses as we possibly can. Now, of course, we're still capped by the government in terms of how many courses we can offer to prospective domestic students, but we have been as generous with our Atar cutoffs as we can over these last 2 years, in acknowledgement, of course, that the COVID circumstances has been pretty challenging out in school land and for all of you and all of your students. So we're looking at another record intake of prospective domestic undergraduate students this year, in addition to those that we welcomed in last year, which is incredibly exciting. Now, in terms of what we're going to do to support you for the year, Bianca will be back a little bit later in the program to talk about some of the resources available to support you, but it's certainly our intention that we will be available for in-person outreach. We're gearing up for a massive year of both a mix of digital and physical events, depending on what's right for the audience. And we do expect to be at all of the major expos and all of your major expos and school visits that you would like us to be part of as well. So do touch base with Bianca and the team, and they will be able to book you in. And we can't wait to see you out there as well. Now, I've got a few faculty updates that I'm going to take you through, and then we'll be going out to those faculties to hear a little bit more about some of their exciting initiatives. And the first one that I wanted to touch on was Arts, Design and Architecture, our ADA faculty, which was relatively new for us here at UNSW. We brought these faculties together about 18 months ago now to really bring that design and that architectural element in with the humanities and start to create some cross-pollination opportunities across those faculties. We've got some really exciting new programs coming in the next 12 months for that faculty, and I'll be throwing over to Professor Claire Annesley later today to take you through some of those in a lot of detail and her vision for the faculty. It's a really large faculty, and it's certainly one of those faculties that one to watch and to see some of the exciting initiatives that they pull out in some of their courses. It's our opportunity to really innovate and disrupt the way that traditional arts education has been occurring in Australia. So more news to follow on that one. From our medicine and health faculty, again, some new programs. For many, many years, you've been asking us to bring on board some allied health programs. We've seen huge demand in that sort of area. The broader health industry has been booming, and we're going to meet that demand and bring some new programs to market. Now, I can't say too much because it's not approved in the final forms yet, but we'll be bringing you the very latest on that through the course of today's seminar as well. Now, the business school doesn't have a huge amount of new news because they've had a huge last 12 months reinvigorating the Bachelor of Commerce, and we're really excited to see that the student results in that first year of the Bachelor of Commerce have increased quite remarkably. We've seen a 4% average increase in the marks that students are getting. If you remember 12 months ago, we launched a brand new model there called the Integrated First Year, which was really bringing students together across disciplines and out of the traditional single class origin structure, and really allowing them to cross-pollinate like they would in industry and in a real life business. And the pleasing result to really see that average mark increase has been quite remarkable. We're also this year going to be hosting the Australian leg of the International Economics Olympiad in 2022. I'm hoping that they let me on board as host, but I haven't had that confirmed just yet. But it will be a series of fun, challenging activities aimed at refining and testing high school students' mastery of economics. And of course, that will be used to select the international team for the International Economics Olympiad. So in a non-Olympics year, incredibly exciting next year to send a team to that world program. So if your school is interested in participating in this competition, you can find out more at AEO, that's aeo.org.au. And of course, it wouldn't be a business school update without me mentioning the Career Accelerator program, which is our flagship career development program within the business school. It's really that acknowledgement that work-integrated learning, as you so well know, is such an important part of the program and the academic curriculum to be embedded at every point of a student's study. Last year, students took on internships and work experience at organisations like Suncorp, ASIC, Grant Thornton, and even within some of the professional teams here at UNSW. Now, nobody's ever offered me an intern. There's probably good reason for that, but I'll keep gunning for it. And they might be hosting next year's Career Advisors Seminar. So really exciting to see that program go from strength to strength. Now, engineering, again, has some new programs, brand new for this intake, but they'll be available in future intakes as well. We recognise that not every student necessarily wants to come in now or is ready to undertake a full degree program. So the engineering faculty has introduced undergraduate certificates for students who don't necessarily meet the engineering degree entry requirements and who may not be ready to commit to the full degree program. The graduate certificates are a really good opportunity for students to gain a bit of an introduction into those programs, see if it's right for them without the full degree commitment, but later on they are able to quite easily transfer and articulate into the relevant bachelor's degree, subject to meeting, of course, the required mark. They're really exciting. It's been part of the government stimulus package, in fact, the Job Ready Graduate Package. They've asked us to really investigate whether undergraduate certificates have a place in the market. So really excited to see those come to fruition and see our first intake of students go into those this year. Now, down in law and justice, they're continuing to prove incredibly popular with our prospective students and employers. They tell me they just won the top prize in the Australian Top 100 Future Leaders Awards for both the law and social change categories. Interestingly enough, UNSW Law and Justice has always really been focused on that social change and that progressive approach to the law. It's one of those conversations that we have to students in that our law students go to the top end of town and the big firms and do the suit sort of Harvey Specter style deal making, But really what we're looking for, and part of the reason that we have the law admissions test, is students who are interested in applying that justice sort of approach and thinking a little bit more broadly about the application of the law. And one of the things that we've done to support that from a structural perspective is bring the Bachelor of Criminal Justice program into the law faculty as well, so that we start to give students that really rounded approach, so they don't necessarily have to just study law, they can study criminal justice and really look at all elements of the law and justice system as part of that. So students get that hands-on social justice experience so that they get that really well-rounded element, and it's not just about making deals and suing people, as I'm reliably informed they do very little of, in fact. So it's important to remember, of course, that in future intake, students will continue to need to do the LAT. We won't be moving away from the law admissions test. It does allow us to make additional offers to the program that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do, and to really assess students beyond just the achievement of their ATAR. We'll also have all of our admission schemes such as Neurogilly and the Gateway program as well, which you'll hear a little bit more about later today. Of course, applications to sit the law admissions test, they do open on Monday the 2nd of May. Registrations close in August. Don't worry about remembering all of these dates now. We'll send them out to you post-event. And of course, we'll have an information evening for students who are interested in that area. On the science front, they're really focused at the moment on their STEM Careers Launchpad. It's one of those areas that we have started to see in the pandemic era, just how important scientists are. We always knew it at the university, but it's really important there that we start to build those career pathways into everything that we do. And we're really trying to build out this co-curricular program that helps science students understand those career options as they come in. We often say that our generalist degrees, like a science degree, are like a funnel. Students come in with a narrow band of interest, and then they start to explore and understand everything that's available to them, and those opportunities open up as they start to move through the program. Finally, before I throw to someone far more interesting than I, a couple of detailed admissions updates for you all to be aware of. And yes, we will share these slides post-event. Thank you for that question. We will make sure that you get these post-event. A really important note to note that psychology, honours and law doesn't have the normal double law UAC code. Students do actually need to submit a separate UAC preference for that program. So if they are interested in psychology and law, the double program there is a different UAC code than the typical double law program. The other element that we achieved this year was streamlining our approach to portfolio entry. We've always looked to encourage students to apply beyond just their ATAR, as I signalled earlier with the law admissions test. We built out a brand new platform for students to be able to submit portfolios in areas such as design, in areas such as architecture, and even engineering and business information systems. And we've run that through for the first time in the last intake, and we'll build on that in our next intake as well. And I'm going to throw now to a colleague of mine, Mr. Jacob Erie, and a current student ambassador, Claudia, who went through this pathway, and they're going to take you through portfolio entry in a little bit more detail and give you some hints and tips around what makes a really strong portfolio entry application. Thanks, Jacob.
Hi, welcome. I'm Jacob Erie from the Future Students team. I'm with one of our great students, Claudia, and we're talking about UNSW portfolio entry from our Kensington campus, which is on beautiful Bedigal land. So I also pay my respects to Bedigal elders and to all First Nations people. Now, I've been working on UNSW portfolio entry for quite some years. I was also a student here, and I submitted a portfolio when I was applying. Claudia is one of our engineering students, and she submitted a portfolio when she was applying too. So we're really excited to be talking about it, and particularly excited to be talking to this group about it. I wanted to focus our talk on how we can kind of help your students to give them the best chance of success. We're going to try and give you some insights rather than just read the stuff that you could read yourself from the website. And the first insight that I really wanted you to take away from this is that we want to make this easier for students, not harder. We know that the students who come through these pathways are really successful once they're here. So we want to make it as accessible as we possibly can because it's good for everyone. Now, since last year, we've made some improvements to portfolio entry. You might remember the challenges of navigating quite a few different schemes and due dates, different eligibility requirements and things to submit, different schemes across engineering, art and design, built environment and business. But to simplify all of that and make it more accessible and understandable to your students, we've brought them all under this one umbrella of UNSW portfolio entry. So it's still available for at least as many degrees. If anything, keep an eye out, we could be adding degrees. And we only want to make this process simpler. So it's available for at least as many degrees. If anything, we'll be adding a few, so keep an eye out on the website. And the process only becomes simpler for students. So up on the screen, you'll see a few of the key things that you need to know about UNSW portfolio entry. The first one is who can submit a portfolio. So it's anyone who's applying through UAC. So obviously that is your domestic students, but if you have any international students at your school who are applying through UAC, it's also something that they can look at. We're looking for people who are interested in one of the many eligible degrees, and we're looking for people who think their Atar is going to fall within 10 points of the lowest selection rank for that degree. When do they submit? We're thinking about our term 1 intake. We're planning to always open it around the date of our open day, so that'll be in early September. And we're looking to close it at our info day. So that's the same day that preferences close for that main round. So they're quite easy dates, but to get the specifics, keep an eye out on the website. And then what do students need to include? That's really going to depend on the degree that they're interested in, which I'll chat about very briefly in just a moment. This slide also has the website, which we'll make sure that you have access to. So on this slide, you'll see the different schemes that fall under UNSW portfolio entry. The first one is art and design portfolio entry. So here we're looking at our bachelors of fine arts, design, and media arts. And we're looking for a sample of creative or written work and a personal statement. Built environment's available for all of our architecture and design-based degrees in that school. We're looking for, again, a portfolio of creative work and a personal statement. FIAS, the Faculty of Engineering Admission Scheme, is available for all of our engineering single degrees and many of the double degrees. And there we're looking for a personal statement, which is scaffolded around a few questions, so it's nice and easy for students. We're looking for a video and a Year 12 report. And then finally, our Bachelor of Business Information Systems, which is quite similar in the requirements and available just for that degree in our business school. And then a summary of how to actually apply. So first and very importantly, the students will need to complete an application with UAC. Portfolio entry is not an application, a direct application to study with UNSW. It's just something that goes alongside their UAC application to help their chances of receiving an offer. As well as that, it's also important that we can only ever make an offer to a student based on their highest eligible UAC preference. So even if they're submitting a portfolio, they need to be keeping that in mind for the degree that they really want to be in. The next step is to prepare their portfolio submission. So that is really quite an easy process. It's all online. It doesn't have to be super professional. And we step the students through all of the different relevant parts that they need to submit based on the degrees that they're interested in. They can also come back and make edits, so it's a great idea for them to start nice and early, but then that final step is to hit that submit button and make sure that they do that before the deadline, which they'll be keeping an eye out for on the website. So now I'm going to hand over to Claudia, who's one of our engineering students, to give some of her tips for preparing and submitting a portfolio.
Thank you, Jacob, for the great introduction. So I'm Claudia. I'm a mining engineering student at UNSW, and I actually applied for the portfolio entry because I was convinced that I wanted to do mining. I just wasn't sure if my Atar will meet the requirement because the engineering entry at the time was about 92 Atar. However, I knew I had the passion for it, so I made sure I included in my application all the projects related to technology and engineering that I've done throughout my high school career, my extracurricular activities. So I knew about mining through the UNSW Women in Engineering event. I've heard about the camps on their social media, and I've been actively following the UNSW page ever since I was in year 10. So I knew that UNSW was going to be the degree that I will go to, since I knew it was the only place in Sydney that offered mining engineering. And so I just would like to include a few points that your students can make sure to include in their portfolio entry as they prepare their portfolio. Number one being making sure they're following the instruction that is already written and put on the website of UNSW Engineering and the portfolio entry website. So making sure that you answer the questions and you include all the necessary details that showcase your passion. Remember, we're making sure that we want to see your students' passion and potential and not perfection in the videography. We're looking for people that want to succeed in these degrees that are eligible for this portfolio entry, and we can't see that if the student is rigid and shy, so we want to make sure they're comfortable in front of the camera, making sure that they encourage just like how my parents encouraged me as I prepared my video entry. And finally, I want to make sure your students put in the right UAC number on their UAC portfolio and also UAC application online, making sure to double check the website, all the details are entered correctly about their personal details, so we can get back to you as soon as all the results are out. And so thank you for listening, and make sure that you encourage your students. I was once a scared and timid year 12 student who's been stressed the whole year, and I was so scared that I might not make it into my dream degree that I've been looking forward to since I was in year 10. So making sure that your students know their passion, they know their potential, and they show it in their portfolio entry. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much, Claudia. I think there's some really beautiful advice in there. I think definitely make sure you're actually following those instructions, but so long as you are, your students don't need to stress. We're not looking for perfection, we're just looking for that passion and potential. The key takeaway here is that UNSW portfolio entry can only ever help your students to get into UNSW. And it helps some really great students come here, so it's definitely something we'd love for you to be encouraging. But thanks so much, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much to Jacob and Claudia for their insights on the portfolio application. Thank you. I wanted to extend a very warm welcome to you all for joining us today at UNSW from your schools and homes across Sydney and New South Wales. I have the pleasure of hosting the next session. We will be covering the Faculty of Arts, Design and Architecture. Now, we will have a Q&A session following this panel discussion, so please make sure to pop your questions in and we'll be able to address those after this panel discussion. So we have a very exciting session planned for you this morning. In this session, we'll be exploring two of UNSW's faculties, the Faculty of Arts, Design and Architecture and the Faculty of Engineering. We'll be looking at the ways creative problem solving and innovation happens across both faculties, and also, contrary to belief, establishing UNSW as a STEAM university as opposed to a STEM university. And we want to explore how this interplay and collaboration between two quite diverse faculties intersect through some really exciting projects and also through our double degrees. I'm joined today by Dr. Kate Dunn from Arts, Design and Architecture, the School of Built Environment, Lauren Kark from Engineering, the School of Biomedical Engineering, and Judy Liu, a graduate from an ADA Engineering double degree in Computer Science and Media Arts. So as I mentioned, we will be following with a live Q&A, so please feel free to pop your questions in. So to kick us off, hi Kate.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'd love if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about a project within Arts, Design and Architecture where we demonstrate creative problem solving and innovation.
Sure. Hi everybody. My name's Kate Dunn. I'm an academic in the School of Built Environment in the Faculty of Arts, Architecture and Design. And thank you so much for having me all here. It's great to be able to talk to you guys directly. So I work a lot with the first year program. I run a first year communications program that spans 7 disciplines, everything from planning, industrial design, architecture, interior architecture, computational design. And a lot of my research kind of reflects that diversity. So a recent project that I've been working on with people from all over the university is we're developing bioshelters or artificial reefs for Blackwater Bay in Sydney Harbour. And this is part of a project that's to do with the new fish markets. As a lot of people know, that area is very polluted, and the best way to clean water is with oysters. So we are designing artificial reefs using a whole range of different techniques, but particularly focused on sustainable materials to put in the water, to try and encourage oyster growth and to encourage native species of a whole range of marine species to rehabilitate that area and help clean up the water. The focus on sustainability is really critical, and to do that, we work with material science. We also look at innovative ways to fabricate. So we look at robotic fabrication, we use CNC to make molds, and we do a lot of 3D printing. So it gives you a bit of a taster of how we cross all the different disciplines.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's a fantastic project.
Thank you.
I'd now like to pass over to Lauren. So Lauren is from the Faculty of Engineering, Biomedical Engineering. So Lauren, I'd love if you could also introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and also about some projects in engineering that really demonstrate that creative problem solving and innovation for students in the classroom.
Sure, thank you, and thank you for having me here today. As Laurie said, my name is Lauren Kark. I'm currently the Associate Head of Education in the Graduate School of Biomedical Engineering in the Faculty of Engineering, which is a bit of a mouthful. I've been in that role since September, so it's a new role and it's exciting, and one of the remits is to explore potential collaboration, so it's great that these info sessions are being held because they're certainly reflecting in the activities that the university is currently participating and undertaking. So I started my life as a mechanical engineer, designing hip replacements before moving into an academic career. My main research interests are really creating medical devices that enable a person to basically live their best life. So my focus has been really on prosthetics, and we've looked at optimizing prosthetics both in the elite sports space and also in community ambulating or community living people with lower limb amputations. Most recently, though, most of my efforts have been in the education space. And my big philosophy in education is, I guess, student empowerment. So showing students how they can use their skills and showing students what they can use their skills for. So one initiative that I'm very passionate about is what we've termed the Assistive Technology Hub. And what we do in that is we pair a group of students with a person with disability, and together, using the concepts of co-creation, they develop or they design and prototype a piece of assistive technology. So, and a piece of assistive technology is really a piece of technology that assists a person to live their lives. So examples of projects we've worked on are squeeze gyms for children with autism. We've worked on putting sensors on walking frames so that older people can maintain their independence if they're losing vision. And another project that we've worked on is custom rowing prostheses, so people who've lost fingers or parts of their hand are able to operate a rowing oar and compete at an elite level. And so being able to achieve these projects, really, it sounds like it's an engineering project, but it's really not. We've got all disciplines coming together, and I think that's where the creativity and the success in the projects really, that's a key to the success in the projects.
That's amazing, yeah. They're just such fantastic projects. Thank you for sharing them. Now, Judy, thank you so much for joining us. We're very lucky to have you along today, so we do appreciate it. So Judy's a recent graduate, as I mentioned, from a double degree in media arts and computer science. And I hear she's working in a very exciting role. But before we get to that, Judy, can you please tell us a little bit about your journey from high school, the subjects you studied, the kind of way you were thinking during your time at high school in terms of your future university program, and why you chose to do these two quite different and diverse degrees?
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Laurie. So I completed my Bachelor's of Computer Science and Media Arts at the end of last year. But like all high school students, I didn't really know what to do with my career as I was doing my HSC. So I completed that at the end of 2017. So of course there were kind of subliminal pressures from family and I guess the high school that I came from to pursue a more traditional or quote-unquote stable job career like an engineer or like an accountant, you know, but I think I've always had a love for arts and design throughout my entire life, and I didn't want that to kind of go to waste. So as I got my Atar back and I was just browsing degrees at UNSW, and I stumbled across computer science. And I had a bit of kind of coding experience during high school. So I did a year 9 and 10 elective called IST. And I had a bit of exposure to Python programming, and I knew I didn't hate it, so that was a good sign. So I was like, oh, computer science, it's not bad. It sounds pretty interesting, actually. Being a software engineer sounds like a fun career path. I'm sure some of you may have seen like videos of Google employees riding bikes around their like work campus and stuff. So I was like, oh, I kind of want to do that. But I also didn't want to have tunnel vision on one career path. And I still kind of had my love for like art and design and all things that. So I was looking at double degrees, and I stumbled across computer science and media arts, which basically combined like the technical and creative like loves of my life, I guess. And yeah, the rest is history. It was kind of a leap of faith. I was learning as I was going through the degree, but it kind of all worked out in the end.
And can I ask, that's amazing, thank you for sharing that. And can I ask, what high school did you go to?
Yeah, I went to North Sydney Girls High School, so it's a girls selective high school.
Yeah, fantastic, that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Kate and Lauren, I'd love if you can speak to how creative problem solving happens in the classroom and how that prepares students for going out to the workforce afterwards. Do you want to start with Kate?
Sure. Thanks, Laurie. That's a really, it's a really important part of what we do here at UNSW is getting students to think critically, but also collaboratively. So one of the key things we find is that notion of when you come from high school, this is the career. You're going to go and study at university, and then you're going to do this career. The research is that people will change careers multiple times during their lifetime. And so what we want to set the students up for is the ability to adapt and to think creatively and solve problems. So to give you an example, I run a course called Emerging Technologies, and we have students from computer science, engineering, from industrial design, from arts, and they work together to solve problems that they identify as a group around them. So during the pandemic, a particular example, a lot of, it was on the news constantly about testing and trying to design vaccines and so on. And we were working with, we're teaching them with collaborative robots. So they saw a news story about pathologists testing vaccines, and they noticed they were using the pipettes manually. And it gave them, they thought, well, hang on a sec, surely we can automate that process. So a team of 4 students designed what's called an end effector. It's basically a gripper for a collaborative robot that could operate the pipette. Now, this was an amazing thing, and they connected it to the robot and operated it and tested it and did it. It's not something that should be able to be achieved in second year. That's something that industry would be really proud to have. But because of the mix of disciplines that are working together, because of, I think, the way we teach students to think critically, we use a lot of design thinking. We use iterative prototyping, where they test it, everyone critiques it, comes up with a better option, and they do it again and again and again. And so we can get outcomes with them really quickly. And that's where a lot of the strategies around innovation and even entrepreneurship, like how do we take this to industry? And they all collaborated with industry. They had a pathologist helping them, and we worked with the Faculty of Medicine up here to help supply and say, yes, that'll work, no, that won't work, no, that's not sterile. And so there is that opportunity here, and I think that that's kind of what sets us apart, is that ability to move between the disciplines.
And is that being used now?
Yeah, they're talking about commercialising it. Actually, where we're sitting with a Michael Crouch Innovation Centre is a fantastic pathway for a lot of our students. They start off in first and second year developing a lot of these ideas, and it suddenly dawns on us as academics or the students, well, hang on a sec, this is actually better than what's out there, because they've integrated those design skills plus engineering plus critical thinking. And so they often end up at the Michael Crouch Innovation Centre in the Founders Program, which helps students commercialise their ideas and take them to market. It's a fantastic program.
Wow, that's amazing. And we should say we are in the Michael Crouch Innovation Centre today, and this is one of our maker spaces, and next door we have the Founders Centre, so it's a great space for students to use. So Lauren, now to you also to talk about within engineering the ways that creative problem solving in the classroom kind of extends and helps students once they go out to the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we do particularly well here at UNSW is we provide a good basis in theory, but also excellent opportunities for application. And I think that's where we have every confidence in our graduates that when they go out, they can approach any problem and hopefully come up with a solution. And if they can't come up with a solution themselves, they're confident and they have the language to access other disciplines that will enable them to achieve that end goal. But I'd like to talk about one of our initiatives that doesn't happen necessarily in the classroom, but it is part of their education. So we run a program where when we can travel, we send students overseas to Cambodia and Uganda, and they spend 9 weeks in rural and regional hospitals repairing medical equipment.
Wow.
And oftentimes in these hospitals there's only one piece of medical equipment, and if it breaks that means those surgeries or that treatment can't happen. So it's an excellent exercise in working in a very different environment, both culturally but also from a resource perspective. Here in Australia we can nip down to JCAR and we can get the parts. In Cambodia you may not be able to do that. There are definitely shops that have the parts, but they may not have all the parts. And so what one of our groups did was they befriended a local store at the local markets. And basically this woman sold scrap electronics. And so our students would recognise what they need for the piece of medical equipment. They would go down to the market. They would barter with her for example, an old radio that is totally unrelated to a piece of medical equipment, but there was one part in it that they needed to repair that piece of medical equipment. And so I think that's showing, I guess, an understanding of their environment, but also an understanding of the technology and an ability to collaborate with people in the engineering space, but also just in the general community.
Yeah, that's incredible. Wow. Thanks so much for sharing that. Now, Judy, can you please tell us a little bit about the new exciting role you have following graduation, and why you think combining the 2 degrees has really helped with that, and what you plan to do perhaps in the future, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So currently I work as a software engineer for Atlassian. So throughout my degree, I kind of figured out that I loved problem solving with tools that I had on hand. So that would be a computer and a keyboard. And that kind of narrowed down my 2 career paths into a software engineer or a UI UX designer, which I got to kind of learn about during my media arts stream. So at the end of my penultimate year, I had a great interview opportunity with Atlassian. And because I had software engineering experience and projects, I kind of just like scooped up that opportunity and went for it. And then I did an internship, and then they offered me a grad role. So here I am. But definitely the combination of 2 degrees let me kind of explore the creative side. So I would have never learnt about UI and UX. And then that is definitely a career path that I'm still interested in. And at my company, we have kind of a flexible internal moving system. So with all my experience that I kind of picked up at uni, I could apply that and then maybe, talk to other people at my company, learn about UI, UX, and then potentially move down that career path. So definitely doing a double degree opens up like many pathways. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Judy. And thank you very much for the discussion today. It's been really interesting. We will be back in a couple of minutes to take your questions, so please have them ready to go, and we'll be back to join you then. Thank you. Welcome back. That was a very quick break. Thank you for coming back to join us. I'd also now like to also introduce Unsw, who's with us from the Faculty of Engineering. He's our Faculty Recruitment Officer for Engineering. So we'll now be taking your questions that you're popping into the live chat. Please feel free to pop in any other questions that you have, and we'll get to those as we do the session. So we have about 15 minutes now. And yeah, any questions, please just pop them in the box. So first of all, we have a question from Kath, which is probably a bit of both for Kate and Lauren. So what is the difference between projects done collaborating with a double degree in engineering ADA and those done in the Founders Programme? Is the Founders Programme extracurricular? Great question. Thank you very much, Kath.
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, you take it.
So yes, it is extracurricular. It's a great question. The Founders Program, one of the things that we really identify here at UNSW is that not everyone is going to go and work for an established company. She's working for Atlassian. They were a startup here at UNSW, who I'm sure we've all heard of now. And of course, as a university, we're really proud, but we realize they are not the only startup that are going to come out of a university. And so the Founders Program really works hard to build that capacity, that entrepreneurial confidence in our students. In Australia, it's not as common as other countries. And so we start them right from first year, getting them to know the different types of opportunities there are for them. So yes, it is extracurricular, but we try and provide a lot of pathways within the degrees, double degrees, to access this program right from the start.
And it's not faculty specific. Any
No,
student can
that's
access
a
the
great
Founders
point.
program.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Vicky. Thank you very much, Vicky. She'd like to know more about the undergraduate engineering certificate, specifically the Atar. Also, are there Commonwealth supported places, I think? A bit of a structure of the program and if it contributes to the BEng program, I think that is. So maybe Yusuf, do you want to touch on
I can happily take
those
that
sort of
question.
entry questions?
Thank you for the question, Vicky. So yes, the undergrad Eng certificate is a Commonwealth supported place. The Atar, we're looking for around 85. It is a new course, so that may fluctuate year on year. Structure of the program, so students get to study 4 introductory engineering courses, a maths course, a computing course, and I think it's a physics course as well, and then an elective. There's also another similar program in computer science, so the undergrad cert in computer science as well. Once they've completed the undergraduate certificate, so those 4 courses, those 4 introductory courses, they can use that to articulate into the Bachelor of Engineering or the Bachelor of Computer Science, depending on which undergraduate certificate they choose to study. And those 4 introductory courses will be counted as credits that have been already studied.
And would you like to comment, Lauren, on sort of the structure of the program and if it contributes to the BEng, Bachelor of Engineering?
Yes, so like Yusuf said, it does. All the courses that are studied is my understanding. I'm certainly no expert. I'll defer to Yusuf, but my understanding is those courses you've listed are part of our first year program in the Bachelor of Engineering.
Perfect. Just to re-clarify. We also have a question from Fran. Thank you very much, Fran. Are internships compulsory for any of these degrees? And does UNSW assist the students in finding them, and when do they generally occur? Kate, would you like to respond to that first?
Yes, sure. I suspect we can all probably respond to that one fairly confidently. Yes, we do. We have what's called work integrated learning. And again, I have to say a lot of our graduates end up in jobs in industry by about second year. A lot of them start to do part-time work, and that is probably attributable to our internship. And yes, we work really hard to place them with reputable companies who treat the students well. And that, I can't count how many of our students, we're like, please, just finish your degree, because they've been offered such great opportunities really early during their process. So I think it's important.
Yeah, that's amazing. And can I ask, Judy, did you have an internship or work while you were studying?
Yeah, so for computer science, we actually don't have that kind of integrated internship opportunity. But yeah, lots of undergraduates do kind of outsource themselves. So a lot of companies have internship opportunities for penultimate students. So that means you're 2 years away from, or you're in your second last year of graduating. Yeah. So a lot of students go for those. And then there are also graduate roles as well.
Fantastic. And Lauren?
Yeah, in engineering, it's an Engineers Australia mandate for any of our accredited degrees, or all of our accredited degrees, that students do at least 60 days of industrial training. And so this can happen over summer, it can happen part-time, or the flexibility of the trimesters means that students can design their course that they can take an entire term off to work in industry.
Yeah,
so it's a minimum of 60 days. I would say the majority of our students do many more than that if they find good placements.
Yeah. Wonderful, thank you. And I have another question for engineering. So is advanced mathematics a prerequisite for engineering for 2023 and beyond?
Great question. It is assumed knowledge, but not a prerequisite. So if a student does achieve the selection rank of whatever the selection rank is when they are applying to study at UNSW and haven't studied advanced mathematics, there's nothing stopping them from applying. For their comfort, we do offer bridging courses, which can bridge the gap between non-mathematics and advanced mathematics, or advanced mathematics and extension mathematics as well. It isn't a requirement, but it is highly recommended to study advanced mathematics.
Thank you, Yusuf. And another question from Jacqueline. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. How long do the undergraduate certificates take? Do you get guaranteed entry in your chosen field after successfully completing the certificate?
Great question. I'll take that one. So the undergrad certificates take about 3 terms. They're 4 courses long. So, 2 terms. They're 4 courses long. There is a average mark or average rank of 65 required. So after you've completed your 4 introductory courses, you need a weighted average mark of 65 to successfully articulate into the Bachelor of Engineering program. As long as they've got that 65, there's nothing stopping them from getting into the Bachelor of Engineering or the Bachelor of Computer Science, depending on what they choose.
Fantastic. Thank you, Yusuf. Judy, I know we did touch in the last session about how you're using both degrees, but would you like to talk a little bit more about how you plan to utilise in the future, maybe?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, doing double degrees, it opened my eyes to a lot of different opportunities. So just because I'm kind of in the software engineering field now doesn't mean I'll stick with it forever. So yeah, I mean, in my spare time, I do kind of dabble in like design and UI UX. But yeah, it's definitely not like a concrete path that you have to go down. You can definitely change career pathways later down the line. So, yeah.
And as Kate alluded to, I think we're going to have possibly lots of different careers in our lifetime. So yeah,
definitely.
I'm sure the sky's the limit, absolutely. A question for you, Yusuf. What double degree combinations are there between arts, design and architecture and engineering?
Awesome. So we've got a handful on offer, by far the most popular one being the computer science, media arts combination. We also have an engineering arts combination, an engineering music combination, and also a computer science art combination. We are working on many more combinations and many more collaborations in the future. Nothing to announce just yet today, but keep tuned, we may have something very soon.
Thank you, it's very exciting. And Kate and Lauren, in your respective programs, I know we have touched on this, but how do you ensure that students have the opportunity to express their creativity and innovation in the classroom or during their program? Would you like to kick off, Lauren?
I'll let you.
Yeah, sure. I think that comes down to curriculum design and designing the activity so that, you know, for them to successfully complete any assignment that we write, they have to demonstrate creativity. But I think what's more important is not what we write, but how we support. And so I think there's many opportunities for support, not just academic within the university. We've got access to a makerspace network who can provide design reviews, who can assist with prototyping. And then I think there's just the general community within UNSW who's are very open. I mean, I've asked students to go and see Kate or one of her colleagues in her faculty and vice versa. So I think there's just inherently that culture of collaboration. Yeah, I didn't really answer your question, but I'm sure Kate will.
No, that's great.
Actually, I really have to agree with Lauren that I've worked at, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, I've worked at other universities and I do find UNSW very collaborative. Like it's unusual. Like I'm in the arts faculty. I know I can walk up to engineering and say, hey, can you help me with this? And they will do that. And that's not across every university. We're very fortunate to have that culture. In terms of the students and creativity and being able to express it, one of the key things is how we design for multiple styles of learning and making sure that I'm talking to a room of people in education, so I'm sure you know exactly what I mean, but we scaffold the learning experience so that different types of creativity can be expressed and there's opportunities right throughout the program for that. And as Lauren said, there is so many extracurricular activities that the students can participate in that we try and engage with during the coursework as well. We're fortunate in that we can change our curriculum or change our course program to meet opportunities that come in. Say we get a superstar guest researcher who's doing a residency at UNSW, then we can pivot and actually engage with what they're working on and get them to come in and do talks and get students to work with them. So that's another way that we can give students those opportunities for really unusual experiences and creativity.
Wonderful.
And can I just say, talking about extracurricular, I think, we've talked about the culture of collaboration in the staff, and that's also reflected in our students. So I mentor a society called the Rehab Eng Society, and basically they work, it's an extracurricular group, it's student-led, and they work on projects to do with assistive technology. They've independently gone and sourced students in medicine, in industrial design, because they've recognised that those skill sets are complementary to their success. And so I think there's lots of opportunities, that even if it's not within the classroom, but it's within the university educational experience that enables students to have access to different ways of problem solving, to see how different disciplines may approach problems, how they can take the best bits from each discipline and create the best solution.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. You know, the number of student societies that students can become involved in is just, there's a plethora, there's just so many. And the other day we had O Week, obviously last week, and it was just exciting to see some of those student societies coming together, obviously all social distanced and in safe ways, but, you know, to see that there's all those opportunities as a new student to take on board, like, it's just phenomenal. And I guess a question for you then, Judy, did you take up sort of that opportunity to get involved in societies?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great idea to get involved in student societies. I was involved in CSE SOC, so the Computer Science Student Society at UNSW. That kind of acted as a jumping off point into getting internships, because it's recommended to, like, keep a LinkedIn and everything, and then recruiters often scour LinkedIn for potential applicants to internships, and then they kind of look for your participation in these extracurricular activities. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. And a question for Unsw, how much does the undergraduate certificate cost? Do you get any recognition of prior learning if you complete the certificate and get average of 65 when you enter the degree? You able to answer that one?
Yep. So cost, I'm not too sure of at the moment. We are uploading all the details to the website as we speak. So the undergraduate certificate pages for computer science and engineering should be up on the degree finder in the next week or so, and the cost will be specified there. Regarding recognition of prior learning, so the 4 introductory courses that students complete as part of those certificates are recognised towards their Bachelor of Engineering or their Bachelor of Computer Science, depending on the certificate, and they won't have to study those subjects or units again.
Wonderful, thanks Unsw. And this might be our last question. So we have a question from Lauda, but it's how long is the internship, but it's not specified in terms of the programme. So can you sort of talk to the length of an internship perhaps, roughly, or does it vary?
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to do just one internship. We've got students who do multiple internships. There's different types of internships. For engineering degrees in general, it's a minimum of 60 days in total.
And I guess the same across arts, design and architecture as well.
Yes,
programs.
so it doesn't necessarily have to be done in one block. You can have lots of arrangements. Some people work, like they do online work remotely. Some of them go into an organisation. It's very flexible. It really depends on the student's needs. I mean, if we have students with kids, which is quite common.
Quite flexible.
Yeah, you can't always do, 9 to 5. So we try and accommodate everyone's needs.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, that brings us to the end of the Q&A. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've really, we obviously can't see you, but we've really enjoyed having you here, and I hope you've enjoyed our session. Thank you very much to Kate, Lauren, Judy and Unsw for joining this session. I really appreciate your time. And I'm now going to pass over to Professor Claire Annesley, the Dean of Arts, Design and Architecture, to give you an update on UNSW's newest Faculty of Arts, Design and Architecture. Thank you so much.
My name is Claire Annesley, and I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Design and Architecture at UNSW. ADA is a new faculty at UNSW, spanning a diverse range of disciplines, from construction management and city planning through to history, languages, politics, education, media, through to music, theatre and performance, and fine arts, and much, much more. Our diversity and the quality of the education we provide is one of our strengths. The other is our commitment to collaboration, creativity, and innovation, and problem solving to improve life on Earth. I thought you might like to see what our students say about us.
Before I enter a classroom, I get this sense of butterflies. It's the anticipation of what ideas will be discussed that day, what theories will be thrown my way, what histories or narratives are we going to be unpicking all together, and you see that reflected in the people around you.
You are talking about lots of different ideas, big ideas. They're real learning moments where you can really see different ways of doing things and see things from other people's perspectives.
I think something that underpins all practice is just a constant craving to question and a desire to look deeper than has kind of been presented to us.
The diversity in perspective is always relevant and it's always valid because where we stand in our own context will always influence the way we write and the way we see the world.
At UNSW, it's all about what you put in is really what you get out. If you're here and you're present and you're excited and you come in and you really want to make stuff, it really shows in your work.
One of the perks of studying at UNSW is how everybody who teaches you is not just an academic, but also an industry professional. And not just any industry profession for that matter, they're pretty much pioneers and leaders in their field.
When you have lecturers who have such a wealth of real-world experience in their fields, you know that what you're being taught comes from a place of knowledge. And I think it makes you almost more engaged with what you're being taught.
This faculty really encourages you to think critically and to continue this sort of lifelong commitment to thinking and to interrogating histories and narratives, which complements professional practice so beautifully.
What I love about ADA is that there are great degree options for students who know what they want to be: an architect, a city planner, a teacher, a social worker. And there are impressive options for students who are not yet sure, who want to follow their passion, develop their knowledge and skills, and be inspired to follow one of the 1,000 paths that exist, but they don't know about yet. Right now, we are updating our degree programs to give students more options, more control to shape their paths, and more freedom to switch direction if they start their studies and then get inspired to try something different. And in 2021, we invested in upgrading our makerspaces, studios, labs, and study spaces to make them best in class in the Sydney area and New South Wales. In fact, UNSW was recently named by Newsweek as one of the best maker schools globally. Graduates of our disciplines, including the arts, humanities, and the creative arts, are in high demand with employers right now. Employers value the same things that we prioritize: the capacity to understand the world from diverse perspectives, how we use our creativity and collaboration to make the world a better place. And that's why our graduates make great leaders. Just look at the high percentage of chief executives and leaders worldwide who have degrees in these disciplines. Our graduates aren't just job ready. They are ready to create the jobs and the businesses of the future, opportunities that we haven't even imagined yet. And they do. That's exactly what they like to go on to do. I'd like to leave you with one example. Emmerich Mordu is a graduate of ours. In 2019, he founded Lord of the Trees. This is a company that uses drones to replant and regenerate deforested regions across the world. He's just one of many impressive examples of graduates of UNSW ADA. And we look forward to meeting your students as they become the next generation of creative minds and leaders in problem solving.
Trees are very important in any ecosystem because not only do they produce oxygen, they also sustain a variety of life. So in the project that we work on, because we try to emulate nature, we bring as much variety as we can so that in the long run, those ecosystems can sustain themselves. My name is Emmerich Modou. I'm the founder of Lord of the Trees. I studied my Master of Environmental Management at UNSW. I chose UNSW because I think the variety of the teaching is important because it enables you to have this interdisciplinary approach in any line of work that you would do after your degree. The world is in a climate crisis, and today using our drones to restore those ecosystems is the fastest way where we can reforest and replant at a rate which is higher than the rate that we chop down trees. It's amazing to realize that some of the most gigantic trees that you see in nature start from those really tiny macroscopic little seeds. And the same thing can be seen with the environmental movement, where anything can start from a tiny idea and just grow into something which is just incredible and that will really make a difference.
Thank you very much, Claire. I'm back here in our Scientia building overlooking the main walkway on campus. I feel like the team's using me a little bit like the roving weatherman this morning, which might be a good career change for me to look forward to. The good news is it's sunny. Still not that many students around behind me, but that is always the risk on a Friday morning. So thank you to Claire and all of our academic colleagues who have joined us this morning. Particularly in week one of the term, it's always hard to drag them away from the classroom, but it's really important for us to be able to present them to you and allow them to answer all of those questions. Thank you also to my team who are out there in force answering your questions and ready to go. I'll be back shortly after the morning tea break to answer lots more of your questions. So if you do have some of those harder ones that you want to get in there around lower selection ranks versus ATARs, etc., I'll come back and tackle those after the morning tea break after I've had another coffee. But certainly, we've got lots more exciting elements coming up for you. I hope that the format is working for you all. Thank you, Kay, for your lovely feedback. As always, it's working for you, and I hope that everybody else is getting something else out of it. After we come back from the morning tea session, we'll go to Bianca, who's going to take you through some of our scholarships, some of the exciting scholarships available. And we're also going to start to break down what makes a really good scholarship application and give you some examples of what has worked in the past so that you can really be equipped to help your students and give them some of those insider hints and tips. She'll be joined by a current student, Susie, who will talk through what worked for her and what enabled her to get a scholarship as well. So we'll give you the behind the scenes look at how all of that is working very shortly. As I said earlier, lots more opportunity to get questions through during the morning. We'll be joined by Nick and Hannah later live to answer questions on behalf of the business school and the science faculty. And you've already, of course, heard from Laurie and Yusuf, who did a wonderful job on behalf of ADA and engineering in conjunction with all of our academics. So lots more opportunity for all of those questions that you've been saving up during the year and, of course, during the recruitment cycle. But without much further ado, I think it's time for us to throw to a morning tea break. Now, Rob, unfortunately, I couldn't get you a chocolate fountain this year, but hopefully you're able to source your own morning tea on a day like today. And I promise as soon as I can, I'll get you back on campus for a special treat on our behalf. So we've got there on the slide 20 minutes. I think you've been such a good audience, we can give you 25. Let's aim to kick off again at 10:50 a.m. We will start right on time because we can't see you struggling back to your seats. I'm going to assume that you're sitting there ready to go at 10:50 a.m. and we will be back to talk scholarships, inside hints and tips, and then a few more little highlights behind the scenes from our faculties. Again, lovely to see you all. Keep all of the questions coming. Have a great break and we'll see you back here soon.
You You're the person the world needs. Life is changing, and the future is uncertain. You may not know how or why yet, but you know you're here to make a difference. You're not waiting for the universe to give you the answers. You're finding them for yourself. Challenging echoes with evidence. Few people have great ideas. Even fewer make them happen. It takes a dreamer, an explorer, a researcher, a leader, a thinker. It takes someone like you. You're the person the world needs. You may not know how or why yet, but you know you're here to make a difference. Few people have great ideas. Even fewer make them happen. It takes a dreamer, a researcher, a leader, a thinker. It takes someone like you.
Hi, welcome to our discussion about UNSW scholarships. Every year, UNSW offers a range of scholarships, from equity and merit, sport, accommodation, to the more industry-focused ones like co-op and women in engineering. I'm joined by Susie, who is a UNSW scholarship recipient and elite athlete. And we're going to have a little chat about Susie's scholarship experience and the application process. We know you're doing an outstanding job of supporting your students, especially in Year 12. They're putting in UAC applications, scholarship applications, and Susie's going to provide that student point of view about going through the application process and some of the best things you can do as careers advisors as you support your students through that process. So thank you so much for joining us, Susie.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. All right, let's get straight into it. Can you tell us about the scholarships you've received and when they were awarded?
Yeah, so in my first and second year here at UNSW, I received the Ben Lexon Scholarship, which is awarded for excellence in sport as well as leadership and academics. And so that's kind of the top sports scholarship that you can get here at UNSW. And then in my third year, I was given the Elite Athlete Scholarship, which is awarded for excellence in sport. And then in my fourth and final year, which is this year, I received the Mark Doherty Athletics Scholarship, which is awarded for excellence in athletics and also some commitment to like the community. And so I'm on the executive committee for the club, so it all kind of works out well.
Amazing. Yeah. And so what kind of opportunities have you been able to explore because you have a scholarship?
It's an endless list. So, I mean, obviously there's the financial aid which I've received. So that's allowed me to focus more on my training and study. And while I still do kind of work, I don't have that pressure that I need to earn money while I'm studying as well. So that's been outstanding. It's meant I'm able to train more and like put more effort into my study. So my grades are thankful for that. But outside of that, I've had some outstanding like ways to meet different athletes as well. So I've been to a couple of like women in sport luncheons and things like that, which have allowed me to meet some just ridiculous athletes and icons, as well as just some chances to communicate with other elite athletes. I did an elite athlete like mentorship program, which is great. I got to mentor some new athletes, as well as I got to mentee alongside some just incredible athletes. So creating that kind of community for me was really important, especially because I want to pursue a future in sport and working with athletes. Outside of that, just the support from the scholarship committee and then also just the elite athlete committee, they've been great in organising my timetable so that if there's any clashes with like my training and then uni, then we can always work around that. And especially when I have to go away for races and things like that, it's always around exam time. So they managed to work around that and help me get exemptions. And then also I can apply for grants as well. So there have been a couple of times where I've had to travel and they always support me in getting there, which has been great.
That's amazing, amazing. The key for me, I mean, it's all fantastic, but it's really being mentally freed up to delve into your passions and meet those wonderful people and focus on your study. And it's great to know that scholarships are available throughout study at UNSW, not just at the entry point of your degree. But we are joined by careers advisors all over New South Wales and interstate. So let's go back to the very beginning. Applying for your first scholarship as a high school student. Just thinking about your experience, what you were doing, what you were thinking and feeling, what can careers advisors do to best support their students through that application process?
Yeah, well, there's definitely lots of things. They play a really important role in getting their students to apply for these scholarships. So I think I have really 3 main pieces of advice, and that would be to just encourage your students to actually go for it, and then to encourage them to really apply early and put thought into it, and then also to be specific. So, you know, just making sure that when you are encouraging students to go for it, that they're not sieving out what they think they might get into or not get into, and making sure that you just encourage them to go for everything, because once you apply for one scholarship, it's not hard to apply for more. And I personally, you know, if I didn't have a really influential teacher telling me to apply for the Ben Lexon Scholarship, I wouldn't have gone for it. I probably would have applied for the Elite Athlete Scholarship, but I definitely didn't think I was going to get the top scholarship here. So I'm so thankful he encouraged me to go for it. Otherwise, I think it's really important to encourage to apply early. Mainly because there are quite a few questions, so you do want to make sure that students are answering all the questions, because as you would know, you can't really assess an unanswered question. But outside of that, you know, there are some questions where you do need to put more thought into it and plan out your answers. So for me, there were some questions about my favourite experiences in leadership, which really, you know, I had to put some thought into that to make sure I got what I wanted to say. And then also making sure that you leave time to actually go over and make sure there's no spelling errors and things like that. Get your family to read it, get your friends to read it, just so it doesn't look too rushed or anything like that, because you do want to make it look professional. And then the final piece of advice would be to be specific. So I kind of treated it like an assignment question, where you get the question and then you break it down. You go, okay, have I answered all parts of this question? Have I given all the relevant information? So yeah, just making sure that you are touching on all the really important things that you've done throughout high school, particularly from like year 10, 11 and 12, to kind of talk about that stuff as well. So yeah, it's really important that you actually answer the question they're asking you and, you know, be specific.
Excellent. And speaking of relevant information, I mean, it's great when students can eloquently answer the questions and provide like excellent leadership examples, but it needs to be backed up by evidence. So what kind of supporting documentation did you put in?
Yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, every scholarship will require you to put like your most recent academic results. So for if you're a high school leaver, it's your most recent high school results. In my first year, second, third year, it was my most recent university results. So yeah, all the academic results are there, and then depending on the scholarship, the documents will change. As far as I'm concerned, they usually require a reference as well, or a school reference. And then in my scholarship as well, because it was a sports and academics and leadership scholarship, I had lots of certificates from my sport. So if I'd ever broken a record or something like that, they were there. If I'd ever received an award at school for academics, I put that in. And then I also put in, obviously, my school reference. So I got my sports coordinator to put a reference in for me. And then I had my coach and my gym coach as well. So it's just really important that you get all that relevant information to really provide like a full picture of who you are, I think.
Excellent. So we've talked a little bit about the technical side of the application, but what can careers advisors do to really help their students shine and stand out?
Yeah, so I think at least the most important thing for me when I was applying for this first scholarship, which was a big step for me, was that my, I guess, sports coordinator, who was kind of like my careers advisor, he sat me down and we really talked about what made me special and pinpointed my strengths. So for example, while I was good at athletics, and you know my scholarship is mainly for athletics. We sat down and we were like, well, I'm also hockey captain, I also touch football captain, like let's put this stuff in there. So we talked about that in the leadership, and I actually got the scholarship because they were like, you're good at athletics, but do you also want to play hockey for us? So it was really important that I kind of highlighted my strengths in that respect. But yeah, just sit down with them, pinpoint what, you know, is like what makes them special, really make them feel good and talk about their strengths. I think encouraging students to talk to their family and friends to get a fuller picture of them is really important. But yeah, just backing your students, I think. I definitely wouldn't have had the confidence to go for it if I didn't have a teacher behind me, backing me. And then when he wrote me a reference as well, that just, you know, gave me all the confidence to really go for it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Susie. There's been some really valuable and practical advice that careers advisors can take back to their students. And thank you everyone so much for joining us. If you have any questions about scholarships, feel free to get in touch with the team and enjoy the rest of the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bianca and Susie. Hopefully you got some really useful hints and tips there around our scholarship application process. I think the really big headline for scholarships and indeed for portfolio entry and anything else that a student's doing is to just be as genuine as possible. We really know we get to read a lot of these sort of applications and we can tell when something's a little bit contrived and manufactured. My favourite one is, ever since the moment I was born, I wanted to change the world, which is a very advanced toddler. So we just ask students to be really genuine. And sometimes if they don't know what they want to do for the rest of their life, that's okay too. It's all right to tell us that and tell us that UNSW is part of their opportunity to come and explore everything. So I'm now going to tackle as many of those big questions that you've had and you've saved up for me as we possibly can over the next 20 minutes or so. Please do continue throwing them into the chat. By the magic of modern technology, they're going to come through to me live here, and I'll work through as many of them as I possibly can. And if we don't get back to you live on camera, we'll do our best to get back to you in the chat. We've got a team of colleagues at the back there monitoring that chat. So please do continue to throw them in and we'll go through as many as we possibly can. I think the biggest question that's come through so far is around this early offer space, and Colleen's asked if UNSW is thinking of offering students places based on their Year 11 results. We don't have any immediate plans to do so, but I will say we're interested in your feedback. The feedback that we've historically got from the Career Advisors Association and the New South Wales Principals Association is that we don't want to be part of devaluing the Year 12 experience and the HSC itself, and that school recommendation schemes create an unnecessary burden on yourselves as career advisors and other school administrators. So that's been the feedback that we've received consistently over the last few years and that we've acted upon in not going into that early offer space. However, if that feedback is changing from yourselves, I'd be really open to hearing it from you so that we can understand where you sit. I guess the results based on Year 11 results are challenging. They can sometimes distract students from their Year 12 studies. Not always. In some circumstances, they're really, really valuable for students. So what we've done is really emphasise the access component of that. So via our flagship Gateway scheme, making offers, preliminary offers on Year 11 results, but then firm offers on Year 12 results. And it gets really confusing for students. I think we can acknowledge that there are so many mechanisms out there now for students to stay on top of. It's really hard work for them to navigate through it all. So we have still been really consistent in that we will only make firm offers on the basis of Year 12 results and the student's Atar. And that, to me, feels, so far, the simplest mechanism that we've had available. Now, if we were to change that, we would seek your feedback. So I'm really open to hearing from you on that one if you do have a changed position on that. And certainly we've been in constant dialogue with CAA New South Wales as well around their thoughts on the matter, which has been quite strong that those early offers that don't include Year 12 results are not favourable to students. And at the end of the day, we want to make the most favourable decisions and the simplest decisions for students. Now that leads me to this next question here around publishing the lowest Atar as well as the lowest selection rank. Now, it gets complex again when you throw in things like guaranteed entry. And really what guaranteed entry is a mechanism that allows universities to take their best guess at what the lowest selection rank is likely to be for any given program in the next intake. Now, we moved away from that this year. To give you all a short history lesson, and I apologise, the government regulatory body, TEXA, requires us as a university to publish the lowest selection rank and the lowest ATAR for every program that we have. So we must publish that in any guide, and in fact, all of our other university counterparts must publish the lowest selection rank and the lowest ATAR. And what we felt was if we add a guaranteed entry rank on top of that, then there's going to be 3 numbers published next to each other, and that's going to be no help to any student. We would rather they go on the historical lowest selection rank because they don't move around particularly much. This year in particular, we did not move a single lowest selection rank from the previous year upwards. We maintained, or in some instances lowered, where we were able to make additional offers. So the decision behind removing that guaranteed entry rank for us was to try and simplify things as best as we possibly could. Now, whether that's worked or not, again, I'm really open to your feedback on how we can make that simpler for students. That's our only and our sole and only intent is to make things as simple as we possibly can for students navigating that end of the year system. The next question here is around do students, from Rowena, around do students need to put UNSW as their highest preference to get an offer? And I just want to be really, really clear that this, I think there's been some really confusing advice in the market given to students in the last 12 months. And I think there's been some borderline unethical advice given to students from other institutions in the last 12 months as well. I want to be really, really clear that the advice from UNSW is always put your dream degree first, regardless of which institution that is at. We really don't care whether it's us or whether it's someone else. We want you to put your dream degree first and then really think through the next options available to you. We will make you an offer to the highest course that you are eligible for, regardless of where you place UNSW in the 5 preference stack. So there are some reports that students have been told by different institutions that they must put the preference as number 1 if they want to have a chance of an offer. We've been really, really clear at UNSW that we will honour the University Admissions Centre process and make offers at the highest eligible preference. There's no judgment from us where a student puts us in their preference. If their highest eligible UNSW preference is at number 3 and that's available for us to make an offer to them, we will do so. And that's, you know, the way the system was designed and the fairest possible way for us to do that. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about portfolio entry without dragging the horse and cart around too much on things like guaranteed entry and lowest selection rank. So a question from Fiona around which courses have the portfolio entry option available to them. So our art and design single degrees, so Bachelor of Design, Bachelor of Art, Fine Art, etc. Our built environment single degrees, so Bachelor of Architecture, Bachelor of City Planning, etc. Our engineering single degrees, and a large selection of their double degrees, and our Bachelor of Information Systems. So that's all listed on our portfolio entry website, so it's worth jumping on. We do review that every year, and certainly off the success of the last year of making that available to students, I would hope that we continue to grow the programs that are available in that space. And Nikki's asked us, do you run any workshops or have resources to help students structure their personal statements? Yes, Nikki, we do. Hopefully, Bianca and Susie's discussion just recently gave you a little bit of an insight into how to structure that personal statement. And on the portfolio entry website, we do work through some worked examples of how students should structure that. So there's a couple of video resources there available to students that will enable them to see good examples of things that have worked and also what not to do, quite importantly as well. I'll just check the next question here. Claudia from Redham House, hi Claudia, has asked how long should the personal statement be? That varies by scholarship and by scheme. We do, for example, for engineering, we ask students to submit a short video, whereas for other programs, we ask them to submit a short written statement. For every scheme, it's listed out, the exact word count. There's no ambiguity with that one. For every scheme, we do make sure that we list it out, and we're very, very clear with the approach to that. Question from Susie. Are Update on how the Term 3 model is working. Does it play a large role in students choosing or not UNSW for a UG degree? Great question, Susie. I've obviously been here for a while. I've seen the non-Term 3, I've seen the Term 3, the 3-term, 3+ model, the trimester, the term, whatever you want to call it. Certainly 2-3 years ago, we were hearing a lot from colleagues such as yourself and from high schools that students weren't interested in it. They couldn't go skiing with their friends in the south of France who were on holidays at USyd, which felt like a problem. Certainly in the last 2 years, we've seen significantly less concern around the trimester model. It's settled down, it's allowed us to refresh and refocus our teaching approach. And it's giving students now, they've worked out how to take advantage of it, which is the really wonderful thing, and make the most of that model to either accelerate their studies, decelerate their studies. You heard on the engineering panel earlier that students are organising their engineering studies to give themselves a whole term to go and do an internship. So students have really worked out how to make the most of it, and we're certainly feeling that students are deliberately selecting us because of the model now, as opposed to 2-3 years ago where there was some concern and confusion around it. You know, you could make the argument that students haven't been able to go on holidays the last 2 years, so maybe they're less worried about when their breaks are going to be. Maybe, but I think it's really given us the opportunity to liven up our educational offering and allow students to focus on less things at once. So lots of hidden benefits as part of it. And certainly now, as we move into that hybrid model of teaching, which Merlin alluded to earlier, we're teaching more and more of those large lectures online and structuring our lab-based classes on campus for those really important interpersonal connections as well. So students have got all of this choice. Whether we go too far down, giving them too much choice and overwhelm them a little bit is probably the next question that we need to address as an institution. But at the moment, our feel and our read from our students is that they're really excited about the model and not concerned about it in that sort of way. Next question in here is from Jennifer. Can you please give me links for the scholarship students that students at my high school can apply for? And can they apply for more than the equity scholarship for rural students? Yes, absolutely. I think we have, hopefully, Jennifer, we've sent you the link to our scholarship finder. Students can apply for just about anything, and they can always apply for multiple scholarships. We've got a really handy online tool. It's a bit like online shopping. You put in a bit of your details around yourself and we'll tell you what you're eligible for. But generally, most students are eligible for at least 2 to 3 scholarships that they might like to apply for. So we always encourage them to apply from at least one or two of the scholarships. So Nikki at Biron Girls, the next question here is around student welfare and the COVID impacts on their schooling. And I think we can all acknowledge the last 2 years have been incredibly taxing on everybody. I'm sure on you, for those of you that I've spoken to, it's been incredibly taxing. For your students, it's been incredibly taxing. To be completely honest with you, for me and my team, it's been incredibly taxing. We, looked at staff redundancies. I had to let go some incredibly valued colleagues over the last couple of years, and we're all tired, and I'm sure that you are as well. So, well done for sticking with it. And it's really important now that we support our students as they make this transition, so that they don't become overwhelmed. I think Nikki's asked me to comment a little bit on some of the student support services that we offer and some adjustment factors to help them get in on the first place. I'll start on getting in. The getting in element is difficult. So our advice from the New South Wales Principals Association, from NESA, from the University's Admissions Centre, was that adjustments have been made in the calculation of the Atar to ensure that educational disadvantage is corrected for. So the Atar is a rank, therefore the exact same percentage of students have got above X% in the Atar in the last year. There's been the exact same amount of students have got above an 80 Atar and have been eligible for programs. And so there's a number of elements of disadvantage in that and compound disadvantage as well. And UAC has been making those objective assessments to make sure that that's managed outside of the university system. So we don't think it's appropriate for us to make individual assessments based on disadvantage. We rely on UAC to make those assessments under their educational access scheme. And they have obviously added some COVID impact elements to that as well. So we've been really as generous as we possibly can with the Atar, and we've worked really closely with the university's admissions centre to make sure that that disadvantage is picked up in the way that they calculate the Atar, so that when it comes through to us, it is still a rank and not a score. And I think that's really important to remember. Sometimes we forget those basics of score versus rank. There's a big one here as well that we've implemented and strengthened, our HSC Plus approach, which is, I'm not allowed to call them bonus points under the official legislation, but the adjustment factors available to students. We've made more HSC Plus points available than ever before for programs that are related to student subjects and high school subjects that they might be interested in studying. So we've been as generous as we possibly can. We'll allow students a maximum of 12 adjustment factors in these COVID times. We haven't confirmed what we're doing for the next intake yet, but in the last 2 years, we've allowed a maximum of 12 adjustment factors across all schemes, up from 10, of course, pre-COVID. And then once students start with us, we've made significant investment in the help that we have available and the support that we have available for students. We've rejigged the way that we do our O-Week. We've got student support advisors available for students as soon as they start, and they basically provide case management for students. They will help them to make that adjustment to the university environment. They will help them to access our on-campus counselling and psychological support. They will help them to work with academics and provide that bridge, because we know that students can feel overwhelmed by having to tackle those higher level relationships as well. We've also refined the way that we provide information to students around commencing their studies. We've worked really, really hard to make sure that enrolment information, getting started, support service information is much more readily available to them. In the past, we would have said about students joining a university that it's a little bit on them to seek out those support services. We don't think that's good enough anymore under the COVID situation. So we're really working to make sure that we put it right up in front of students so that they know that everything's available to them and that we are there to help them as well. Okay. Melissa's asked me to go back a little bit on the 3-term model for those of you that don't know about it. Absolutely, Melissa. Just to explain to everybody there, and I apologise if you've heard me talk about this ad nauseum, historically most universities operated on a 2-semester model. So much like your 4 school terms, universities would operate on 2 semesters. UNSW made the decision to go to 3 terms, and what we did was slightly shorten them. So if a historical semester was 14 weeks long, we shortened our terms to about 12 weeks so that we didn't reduce the teaching weeks across the year, but we spaced them out. And we asked students to take less subjects at any given time. So in a traditional semester model, a student would generally take 4 subjects at a time. We're asking them to take between 2 and 3 in a term so that they've got less to focus on and they can really get that depth of learning within the term model. It means they're not doing the 4 terms of the high school system, they're doing the 3 terms of our university system. It's one that we got from the Northern Hemisphere. It's quite popular in the Northern Hemisphere educational model. And it does actually align really nicely when we start sending students on exchange into the Northern Hemisphere. They'll be able to line up really quite neatly with what's available over there. So essentially it gives students flexibility. They can choose to accelerate within a term, they can choose to decelerate depending on what works for them as opposed to being stuck in the 2 semesters. The downside that's often quoted to us is that their holidays don't always align with their siblings at other universities who are on the semester model. I think students are working their way through the implications of that now. Next question in here, I think we've got an anonymous one from in here. Lots of students interested in living on campus to have that experience. Yep, wonderful. And it may not surprise anyone that we've got more beds available at the moment with the reduction in international students who have been able to join us. The best place is to jump onto the UNSW Accommodation website, or you can email the accommodation team. They'll be able to take your students on tours. They'll be able to give them guidance on all of the different options available. UNSW, we've got all the different ranges. We've got the fully sort of self-catered apartment style living right through to the supported residential college that brings with it all of that sort of pastoral care and support for students. So lots and lots of different options available for them. And it's a bit of choosing the right thing for the individual student, but lots of beds available. You know, pre-pandemic, we spent a lot of time investing in increasing the beds available, and we will continue to do that. Next one here is lots of gateway questions. Thank you for your gateway questions. Gateway is our program designed to support students from low SES backgrounds. You would be aware that many schools are designated as low SES schools based on the government criteria. The element that we've added to that in the last intake was making sure that students' individual circumstances are recognised as well. So to do that, we use the CEFA index, and we use students who are classified based on their home address in the lowest 25% of disadvantage. Now, you can jump on our website and have a look at the full details around eligibility there. But essentially, we're looking at gateway schools. If you know that you're a gateway school, you're a gateway school. If you're not a gateway school, we don't have control over that one. That's decided by the government criteria list. But we are really opening that up now based on individual circumstances, which has meant that we've got more applications through that gateway pathway than we ever have before, which is just wonderful news. And the gateway team do a wonderful job of providing a lot of laddering and year 11, year 12 engagement opportunities for students who might be first in their family coming to university, who might not have those peer connections and groups out of a high school. So they spend a lot of time helping students feel comfortable to get through into the university system. So that's about all that I have time for. We're about to go down and have a look at what's happening in the UNSW Law and Justice faculty, and we're going to explore what's happening outside the classroom in there to ensure that our students are employable ready. We'll have a little bit more time for questions later on, so please keep them coming through via the chat, and if we can't get to them live on camera, we will answer them over the course of the day via the chat. But let's now go and hear from Law and Justice.
Hi, I'm Angela and I'm a second year student at UNSW studying Commerce and Law, and today I'm going to take you on a tour of the Law Library. So I always come here to study and do my readings because at UNSW our classes are taught in a very small and interactive style. Also, did you know that at UNSW the Law Library is the only faculty-specific library here on our main campus? The reason why I chose to study law at UNSW is because of our global ranking. We're ranked 13th in the world, and that is something employers really value. Although I'm only in my second year of law school, my favourite thing about UNSW Law would be our law competitions. From mooting to negotiations, we do offer a lot of opportunities to our students to develop their real-life skills that are applicable as a lawyer when they graduate. One of the great things about studying the law library is coming here and bumping into my friends. Hi Brianne, what's your favourite thing about studying law at UNSW?
Hi Angela. One of my favourite things about studying law at UNSW is how vibrant the Law Society is. As you've mentioned, there's plenty of opportunities to take part in negotiations and mooting. I also had the chance to co-author some articles which the Law Society published as part of their magazines. And I also met some really amazing people during that as well.
Wow, sounds amazing. I've also been thinking about the law-related experiences I should take soon. As a 5th year, would you mind sharing some of the law work experiences you've done so far?
Yeah, of course. So in the first 2 years of university, I was a volunteer at a community legal centre, and I did some really valuable administrative work for them. But I think those skills have been really transferable now to my current job as a paralegal, where I've been able to work closely with the solicitors that I work for. And I hope that these skills will be transferable then to a clerkship role that I'll apply for later in the year.
Wow, thanks Brianne for sharing. That gives me plenty of ideas what to do next. Knowing that we have an exclusive careers service for UNSW Law and Justice is really assuring. Now it's time for me to get on top of my readings and give the other law students here some peace. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time.
Hi, my name is Benny, and I am currently a 4th year undergraduate student studying at UNSW, studying a Bachelor's of Commerce and Advanced Science honours, and I am majoring in finance and neuroscience. So I'll be the host of today's session, where we'll talk mainly about pretty much the idea of the double degree between commerce and science. So I am joined today by an expert panel where they will discuss a little bit more about this topic. So we'll start off with Shannon, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Shannon Maisie, and I'm the Director of Academic Programs for the Faculty of Science.
I'm Anna Gurovich, the Engagement Manager at the Business School Career Accelerator.
Hi, and I'm Greta Trelaw, one of the Early Career Advisors at PwC.
So Greta, let's begin with the big question first. What value do you see in graduates who have studied a double degree like business and science bring to the workforce or like an organisation like yours?
Awesome. It's a great question. So at PwC, the work that we do with our clients is to solve their problems, whatever they may be. So when we're looking for graduates and students to come on board with us, we're really looking for candidates that are passionate and interested in the work that we do with our clients, so solving problems. The benefit and what we see with students who study a double degree is that they have two different types of thinking styles and ways that they approach problems that they solve. Particularly with science candidates, we notice that they're super data-driven, they're able to look at problems critically and analyse them. And this helps as well when we're working in diverse groups with people from all different backgrounds and disciplines.
Perfect, thank you so much. Then we'll quickly move on to Anna. How do we equip our students with the skills and experience to be confident in the workforce and sought after by people like Greta?
Absolutely. So at the business school through Career Accelerator, we aim to connect students to industry at every stage of their degree and then help them with the skills needed to have a really successful interaction. So students can, for credit, complete an internship, global business practicum or industry consulting project. So they learn by doing and have the added benefit of receiving course credit as well. But we also run mentoring programs where students are paired with our industry partners and have a really unique experience and can ask questions and find out a little bit more around the areas that they want to work in, as well as lots of other networking events and opportunities just to informally meet, network and practice some of those skills that might be beneficial in their future career as well, regardless of the industry they end up working in.
Definitely. I think as a person who partook in the Global Trade Accelerator program, it was definitely an experience that allowed me to really see what the workforce was like and really work with like real-time clients and kind of experience and see like, you know, the things that I really need to prepare. So thank you for that. We'll move on to Shannon now. So Shannon, I know there are equally several initiatives unique to students at UNSW Science, which support their transition to the workforce. So could you explain some of these, please?
Yeah, sure thing. So we now have a wheel course or work integrated learning course in each of our main schools. So this allows students to undertake during their program a semester where they are working integrated into a authentic industry-based project. And so they're generally off-site working in industry and you know, going to work a day a week or so to really learn about that experience for them. And that's, you know, coupled to a series of professional development and self-identity development modules that couple into the course. We also have quite a lot of experiences for students that are co-curricular, so not necessarily built into the program, but available specifically for science students. And one of the ones that's launching this year, it's a really exciting program called My Career Launcher. And essentially it's a three-step module that students can choose to engage in any three of those or all three of them. And it is something that is accredited to appear on their academic transcript. And it's designed for science students to really start to think about what they want to do in their career and how what they have, you know, already experienced in their program will link into their professional career. It's things that science students don't always necessarily think about. So you know, marketing themselves and working out where their skills are and how that fits into the industry as a broader thing. So that's one of the, you know, really exciting programs that we have at the moment. Another thing that's really great is opportunities to participate in these, I guess they're competitions, but they're more like experience projects as well for students who are interested, especially in the commercialisation side or the startup culture that seems to be really popular at the moment. Is that students are able to engage with these little projects to apply their science skills, but in that more wider context of industry and business. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. So we'll continue and we'll stay with you, Shannon. So I know there are equally several initiatives unique to students in UNSW Science which support their transition to the workforce. Could you quickly explain some of these ideas?
Yeah, this is something, I mean, I think Greta touched on this idea that you know, someone who has a science background absolutely has this ability for problem solving. And one of the things that we really try to get across at UNSW Science is that science isn't just something that happens in a lab. That certainly is central to science, but what we talk about is this idea of an individual's ability to think like a scientist and have this ability to take a really data-driven analytical approach to anything really, and it's something that is commented on as a science graduate's ability to look at a situation in a really unique way. And I think one of the things that really good to highlight as well, it's quite unique to a science graduate, is not just their ability to solve problems, but it's also their ability to identify problems where they are and also ask questions that will then go on to you know, lead down unique avenues and pathways that might not have necessarily been considered before. And that's a really unique perspective that a science graduate will absolutely end up with.
I mean, that's great to hear for me, at least, for the future. So then we'll quickly move on to Anna. So what are some of the skills unique to business students that are preparing them for the future?
Look, I think when you consider it in partnership with a science degree, it is quite a unique skill set. I think the business aspect can bring a sense of commercial acumen to the science specialisation. And I think the communication aspect is really important as well. Each industry and each specialisation has their own unique terminology and almost their own unique language. So being able to bridge the gap and be able to present a business case and make an argument that is commercial and that is appealing to an organisation, but back that up with the scientific and the technical facts that appeal to that kind of audience as well. So I think the combination is really powerful to be able to have that scientific expertise as well as that commercial acumen and be able to speak the language of the whole audience regardless of their skill set.
Perfect, thank you so much. That's really, really insightful. And then we'll move to Greta. So how can we prepare students for the world of work earlier? As I am graduating soon, are there any tips that we can share to interested high school students as well?
Awesome, great question. And I think from today's session, we've heard a lot about the skills that you can acquire through this degree, but the thing that we really want the students and the graduates that come to us to know and to be aware of is that you do have the support in your faculty and even at your high school, typically in terms of a career advisor. And as industry partners, we really do rely on that relationship with the career advisors. So I would lean on the networks that are already there for you. And I know when I was in first year uni, maybe even until I graduated, I did not lean on the network. But it could have given me, I think, the head start that I needed in terms of the skills and the professional development that I needed to get a graduate job. So that would be my number one tip, would be to lean on the network that's already there for you. And secondly is to do the reflection piece. So think about all the things that you've really enjoyed doing throughout high school, if you are a high school student. And then in university life, do the same thing. So think about the type of working environment that you've liked to work in. Have you really enjoyed the group projects or the essays that you've had to do on your own? And really do that reflection piece so that you're coming into the application season really empowered, knowing what you want to get out of your internship or grad job.
Thank you so much. I think that's kind of the direction I went. I really enjoyed doing science and I really had a kind of a business acumen already, so that's really the reason why I kind of chose my double degree as well. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have now, but what an insightful session. Thank you to my wonderful guests, and thank you for those who tuned into this session.
Hello and welcome. My name is Nick. I'm our Senior Recruitment Product Manager for the Faculty of Medicine and Health and also the Faculty of Science. Today I'm really excited to be here with you, and again, I know many of you from my previous roles as well, so thanks for joining in, but really excited to be here today to talk about our new health professional programs. Faculty have been very hard at work over the last 12 to 18 months to really get this off the ground in time for your students, hopefully in 2023, to be enrolling in some of these programs. I've got an expert panel who's going to be joining me today who are going to take us in a bit of a deep dive into what these new programs are going to look like. But first of all, we're going to throw over to my colleague Cody Wem to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name's Cody Wem. I'm the Faculty Recruitment Officer for the Faculty of Medicine and Health. Super excited to be here today and to take you through the future of health here at UNSW Medicine and Health.
Brilliant. So look, on that note actually, what does the future of health look like? Well, look, in your roles, I know many of you are across some of the latest health trends, and really the fact that this last 18 months to 2 years has been phenomenal in terms of just the changes we've seen across healthcare with the pandemic, with obviously continued aspects like the aging population and the fact that healthcare itself is transforming on a technological scale that we haven't ever seen before. So I've got a bit of a snapshot on the screen now of just some of those changes, but some of the key global employment trends that have been identified really are the rise of the care economy. So the fact that this aging population and the increased focus on healthcare and well-being is seeing huge increases in the number of roles and jobs that are available across healthcare. The fact that transferable skills, as we always know, are really important, but are becoming increasingly important, particularly when you pair that with the fact that the increase in technological equipment and skills and insights that you need to really be across as a healthcare worker are becoming more and more critical. So being able to have those transferable skills, but to be able to embed that really in a technical context is very, very critical. At UNSW Medicine and Health, we've got our Health 25 strategy, and this is really informing where the faculty is going over the next couple of years up to 2025 and beyond. And some of the trends that we've really tried to focus on, pulling it out of the data that really is coming out across the world with some of these transformations. We're focusing on things like preventative medicine and well-being. The fact that big data is a critical skill that increasingly healthcare professionals need to be across to be able to give the best possible patient care. But the fact that we're also seeing the health industry, as much as specialization is really important, also become extremely collaborative. And so that interdisciplinary learning and teaching is really critical to the way we teach at UNSW Medicine and Health, but also the way in which we're preparing these new programs. So on that note, to assist really the faculty team here who are working tremendous hours to get these programs up and running, we went out and did some focus groups, a bit of a cross-section of high schools last year. And I'll throw over to Cody to give a bit of a summary of some of the findings we got and how that's informing the development of these new programs.
Thanks, Nick. Firstly, I'd just like to say a big thank you to our 8 wonderful schools that were involved. We took a bit of a cross-section of our cohort, so we had everything from public to private, selective, and we got a wonderful numerous students, 141 of them from years 10 to 12 that were involved. So we had a large cross-section that were able to give us some amazing findings and really help shape the programs moving forward. So first up, we know that students were really interested in doing a combined program. So having that undergraduate and the postgraduate side of the program all combined into one to give them a better outcome at the end and to really project them into their careers. And we also know that they were happy with only doing a year extra on their degree to get that combined program. So the extra year was really not an issue. They also said that they really wanted to get out into the workforce early. So they wanted to be in industry and ready to hit the ground running when they start their careers in industry. And also one last thing, we learnt that they really wanted to be on campus. They want to experience everything that the UNSW community has to offer, and by doing that, that means they're getting a lot of face-to-face time with their colleagues in class, their fellow students, but as well with academics, and really having that face-to-face time with them.
And look, I think on that note, it's probably unsurprising, some of those findings. I know careers advisors hear all the time that internships, that industry experience is really critical. We know it's even more critical in the healthcare industry and really having the experience, the confidence to go out into clinical settings. And it's one of the great things about the way we're structuring these programs from the ground up is that that's a real centerpiece of them. So we're going to throw it over now to our panel. We've got a few esteemed guests with us here today. So delighted to have Professor Annette Catalaris here today, who's our Director of New Program Developments at UNSW Medicine and Health, and Dr. Ramesh Walpala, who is our Discipline Lead for Pharmacy, and who's going to give us a real insight into how the pharmacy side of things is going to be structured. So, look, on that note, I'm going to throw the first question over to Annette now. And Annette, what new programs is UNSW Medicine and Health introducing, and what's the expected timeline for these to launch?
Thanks, Nick. In a nutshell, we're introducing 3 new articulated programs in physiotherapy and exercise physiology, in pharmacy, and in nutrition and dietetics and food innovation. When are they going to launch? Well, our aim is for next year, and we're on target to reach that.
Brilliant. And look, I should say for those viewing at home and viewing this throughout the year, indeed, that we do expect to do an information evening for these new programs in the middle of the year when we officially launch them. So the details are still being finalised, still going through the final phases of the approval process, but we're really excited for where that's going to lead us. So Annette, another question for you now. Look, we've touched a little on our discussion through Health 25 about the fact that UNSW is really expanding into these areas. We see the need. What was your kind of impetus for driving these new programs, and what makes them different?
Thanks, Nick. What drove the changes? Well, it was a combination of factors. First, it was our Health 25 strategy, a desire to broaden our health program offerings and to be more active in the health system beyond medical practitioners, optometrists and exercise physiologists. The other thing that drives it is the changing in healthcare practice today. It is based on collaborative practice and interprofessional teams. So this was a unique opportunity to develop from the ground up new programs that weren't copycat programs of other ones, that really stretched the boundaries, that prepare our graduates for an increased scope of practice, that prepare our practice to work in interprofessional teams, advanced communication skills, intimate knowledge of research methods and evidence-based practice. These will be our leaders, we believe, in allied health professions, and they'll push the boundaries because they will be skilled in those things you mentioned in your introduction. They'll be learning about big data. They'll be learning about e-health. They'll be learning about innovation and entrepreneurship, as well as business and management skills. We've embedded all this through a professional practice stream where all the cohorts will study together so that rather than just pay lip service to interprofessional learning, it's embedded throughout the program. To give you a little bit of detail about each stream, what's unique about our physiotherapy program is that we've linked it with an exercise physiology program. So for the first time in Australia in 5 years, you can complete accreditation in both programs by completing an undergraduate degree in exercise science and a postgraduate extended master degree in physiotherapy and exercise physiology. I'll let Ramesh talk about the pharmacy program, but in our dietetics and nutrition stream, there's an exciting difference. Instead of just training dietitians who are very skilled in patient-to-patient management, we've added in food innovation so that our students will know not just about diet, but they'll know about food. So they'll know about how it's sourced, how it's manufactured, how it's packaged, how it's distributed. So our students will be incredibly well placed in all sorts of employment opportunities to take on interesting and new roles that we haven't even thought of yet. So I can see them working in government, in aid organisations, in industry, and there will be nobody else out there with those quals unless they've done a full food chemistry course as well as a dietetics and nutrition program. And they'll do that by doing a Bachelor of Nutrition and an extended Master in Dietetics and Food Innovation. That's it in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Look, it's obviously a lot to take in. There's so many changes, and launching this many degrees at once is phenomenal, really, and we're very excited, obviously, for what that means for students when they're coming in. Ramesh, we might do a bit of a deep dive now into pharmacy. So do you want to tell us a bit about the structure of the pharmacy program and what students can expect to get out of the learning experience?
Absolutely, Nick. Pharmacy, I think, as a profession, has completely evolved from when I left pharmacy school, 15 years ago. We've gone from being very much focused around the supply of medicines and the provision of medicines to becoming a much more clinical practitioner as part of health teams, going beyond just the community or the hospital into aged care settings, into general practices and beyond. And so what we have really done as part of our programs is we've done a huge amount of consultation with the industry to actually not look at just what is the contemporary practice, but what is the future practice that they see in 5, 10 years. And we've actually built our entire program around that consultation and where they see the profession growing. So our graduates at the end of the 5-year program will be ready for what really ever they have to deal with in the future. Our program is very much focused around building those practical learning opportunities. So there's a lot of experiential learning built in right from year 1 all the way through to year 5. And that we do it in a way that is quite gradual, so the students are eased into various different roles within the industry. Before they do the major block placements that they will do towards the end of the degree, we actually put them through an extended simulation. And that way we throw everything at them. So they have to actually take leadership to actually manage a whole range of both clinical scenarios, but actually also manage health logistics such as a disaster day. How do we manage natural disasters? A COVID pandemic, we just have gone through it now. So putting our students through those kinds of experiences well before they actually go into practice and do extended placements.
Brilliant. And look, I guess another follow-up question on that is the research side of things. We know research skills are becoming increasingly important for graduates across healthcare, and indeed across every industry. How does that manifest in these new programs, and how important is it to industry, particularly on the health side of things?
Look, as a practitioner myself, I know that having an understanding of the research is absolutely crucial. I remember day 1 of my clinical practice, when I was an intern, I had to interpret a whole bunch of charts for a medical practitioner, and yes, I was freaking out a little bit, but having an understanding of the research skills to actually deep dive into the information, interpret the information and present it in a digestible fashion is absolutely crucial. And this is something that a lot of pharmacists are doing in today's clinical practice. So we've embedded that throughout the program, introducing it right from year 1 and gradually introducing our students to the different skills that they need to use. We've provided advanced research training for our students in their final year. And if our students are really keen to do high degree research, we've actually got a research stream set up for them if they choose to do so that they can prepare themselves for high degree research if need be.
Yeah, excellent. And look, Annette, I might come back to you on the skills theme still and ask, what are the critical skills that students are going to be graduating with across all of these programs, in addition to obviously the research side of things?
We sort of started with that question when we designed the programs, in addition to all the research you referred to and all the stakeholder engagement we undertook. So first and foremost, they will be expert clinicians, and we'll make sure of that through our scaffolded program, through the skills training in the sim lab and through the clinical practice. But they will also have a deep understanding of research and how to apply it. As well as that, they'll understand value-based care. So they'll understand what care makes a difference and at what cost. They'll be excellent communicators, both in written work and in spoken, scientific and on the bedside. So communication skills are a very big part of this program, because there's no point having an expert clinician who can't talk with you or who can't negotiate to improve, to advocate for their patients or to lead a team within a hospital. So they will be team workers, they will be communicators, they will be research informed. They will be innovators, because we've embedded innovation in this so that people don't just work with the system, they think about how to make it better. They'll learn to do quality improvement exercises, so they'll be able to make incremental changes that are required in health. And they will, as well as all that, the sad fact is that allied health professionals stay in their career for about 7 years. And one of the things, that's not very long when you think it might take, 5 to 7 years to train them. So what we've planned for is their next career, but so that they stay within the profession. So we're hoping that what we will do is advance their career path so they remain interested and engaged in their profession, and that they will move into leadership roles early in their career. So while they're still fully engaged and passionate about what they do, they'll be able to move up. So we're giving them an extended master, not so much for the credential, but so on graduation, they are equipped to hit the road running and really stand out in a crowd.
Yeah, brilliant.
We're very excited about this.
I can tell. So look, on that note though, we are running out of time very quickly, and I know many of our careers advisors will have many questions for us. We will get to all of those questions progressively throughout the year as we launch these new programs. But we might end on a bit of a personal note, and Ramesh, I'll throw to you first. What's been the most exciting or rewarding part of being involved with the launch of these new programs?
Look, I think what I found most exciting is building a program from scratch and building a program that I wish I had when I graduated from university. And that's something that we've really achieved, I guess, through our stakeholder engagement throughout the process, listening to not just the people right at the top of the profession, but to recent and current students to see, what do they really want from a degree program and deliver that for our students.
Of course. Yeah, and Annette, yourself?
Look, I think Ramesh summed it up beautifully. I'm a medical practitioner by training, and I've spent 20 years in general practice, and I've spent 10 years almost in academia now designing health programs. It's been an absolute pleasure to lead a team of passionate and dedicated allied health professionals for each of them to design a program that they wish they'd done. And in doing that, it has been the most incredible collaboration so that the streams talk to each other, the streams talk to the central pillars of the program, the professional practice part of it. We've got psychology courses going through where they'll all be studying together. I think this is the most holistic training for an allied health professional in the country, and that's happened because the team has been cohesive and collaborative and generous. And we've all worked with a common purpose to graduate the best allied health professionals that we can graduate.
I think that's going to be hard to follow up, Cody, but I might throw to you as well. For you being involved in the focus groups last year as well and working behind the scenes on some of the data side of things, what's the most exciting part of being involved with these new programs?
Definitely. Thanks, Nick. I think the most exciting thing for me is actually yet to come. So from doing the focus groups, speaking to students in Year 10 and in Year 11 who are looking to do other allied health and primary care programs, I guess being able to go back out to schools and be able to speak to the students once we launch these programs, being able to see how excited the future students are to be able to study these programs and see them getting excited and see them starting the programs. I think having that sort of full circle of having them shape the program to then being able to start it and begin their health career is probably the most exciting for me.
Fair enough. And look, it's definitely true. It takes a whole cast of, a huge team to be able to make this happen. But it equally takes a lot of consultation with stakeholders, with industry, with current students as well. So thank you to the schools that were involved last year. We look forward to connecting in again once these programs are launched. As I mentioned before, the programs are going through that final approval stage internally at the university. So we'll have the exact layout of those degrees, the final titles, all the information that you're going to need to be able to brief this into your students and advise them, particularly those looking to commence with this even as early as next year. We'll be launching all of that really, really soon. And we're really going to kick it off with an information evening in the middle of the year. So keep an eye out on the Educators Monthly newsletter. We'll be adding in all the details once they're available. But on behalf of the team, we're thrilled, we're excited. It's a brilliant time to be here at UNSW Medicine and Health. And we look forward to connecting in with you all very, very shortly to launch these new programs.
Having a business background enables you to pretty much work in any industry, in any kind of role, really provides a great base for anyone to get a great kickstart into the working world.
Hi everyone, my name's Hannah and I am from the Faculty of Law and Justice and UNSW Business School, and today I'm going to answer some of the questions, the fantastic questions that you've sent through. I do have an empty chair beside me because Nick is going to be joining me from Science and Medicine and Health. Oh, actually, he had to run down campus to get here.
Hello again.
It's true what they say about UNSW, it is full of stairs.
I don't envy the students and their lifestyle.
Hey, as you catch your breath, I might answer the first question, Nick. So the first one I've got here is from Fran Wicks from St. Luke's. Thanks for your question, Fran. And it's about the small and interactive learning in the law faculty. And actually, I've got a similar question here from Susie Hughes as well, who has asked about the different teaching styles at UNSW Law and Justice. And you might hear us talk about our interactive teaching style quite often at UNSW Law and Justice. One of the things that we really value is that small style teaching, small seminar style we actually call it. Quite often you'll hear law students complaining about how much reading that they have to do, and that is because in our UNSW Law and Justice classes we want students to bring their interpretation of the law and their interpretation of their readings to really dissect the social justice issues, the legal issues, and bring their perspective to the law. We find that in-classroom conversation between students and academics, and also in our professional guests that come in as well, is just so valuable to making sure our students are really critical thinkers and the sharpest legal minds. Nick?
Thank you. I think I've finally caught my breath. So let's dive into some of the science and the medicine questions as well. And I can see there's plenty that are coming through. One from Jacqueline at Asquith Girls High School is around students who are doing 1 or 2 days a week of internships. Are they sourced by the university or are they sourced by the students? And I mean, the reality is that it's actually a combination of the two. So the work integrated learning opportunities that we heard of before from our science team really are organised by the Faculty of Science. We've got 400 plus industry partner organisations that we work very closely with, so there's lots of those opportunities available. But equally, if students have connections or if they have organisations they want to work for and they proactively reach out to those organisations to organise internships, and that we can work very closely with those organisations to make them count back towards their degree as well as part of formal work integrated learning. But often students equally do them as summer holiday internships. We see our students really making the most of that throughout the entire year. So it really is a combination of the two there. Hannah, do you want to dive in with the next question?
I was just going to say, actually, that's what I know Chris spoke earlier about UNSW 3+, so our academic calendar, and that flexibility to be able to plan those internships throughout whichever degree you have, whether we're probably a bit biased for science, medicine, business, law degrees, but it is really applicable across, all UNSW programs.
I think, just to add to that as well, the fact that you're doing those 8 subjects spread across the 3 terms, sometimes students will go down to just 1 or 2 subjects throughout that term, and then that way they're freeing up the latter half of their week to do those internships and that. So it is, it's really up to the student how they want to balance it, how big the commitment is in terms of the internship, but there's always a way of making it work, and we'll always work with them to make sure that they get the best outcome.
Absolutely. Hey, I've got a question here from Jacqueline as well about business school, and Jacqueline's asked, do all business students get access to the mentoring program? And that's a big yes. So mentoring is built into UNSW business school programs through a range of different opportunities, including Career Accelerator, which we heard from Anna from the Career Accelerator team a little bit earlier today. And they have a really technical mentoring program where students can meet with a mentor. Usually that happens towards the end of their studies as well, so they can meet with someone, and then that's often very helpful for students coming to the end of their studies to be realistic about the types of jobs that they can go for and to really help them through that coaching and interview period. The other mentoring that students really take a part of in UNSW Business School, and look, I'm sure across a number of different faculties as well, is as part of the student clubs and societies. So we have a really rich culture of student clubs and societies here at UNSW, and in fact, as I was walking down here, I walked past a really big BSOC, the Business Society group of students activating campus for their first week. But there is quite a lot of mentoring that happens within those clubs and societies too. So they have first year mentoring programs, as well as later year mentoring programs where students perhaps from the MBA program from the AGSM can mentor students that are in their final years of their Bachelor of Commerce.
All right, look, I'll jump in with a bit more of a pragmatic question now from Anonymous, so thanks for submitting your question. It's around the flying programs at UNSW and how you can recommend to your students how they can manage the financial costs of that. So if students are interested in doing, say, our Bachelor of Aviation flying program, which is managed primarily out at Bankstown Airport. Students will also do some courses here on the main campus at Kensington. But we've got our own fleet of aircraft. Students will be able to get their commercial pilot's license, over 200 hours of flying credited towards that as part of the program. But it does mean that there's substantial costs associated with that, and it's purely because of the infrastructure required to enable students to be able to fly for that volume of hours. So it's about 139,000 thereabouts. Does fluctuate year to year, but it's around that mark that students will kind of have to pay out of pocket. That's in addition to the fact that they're going to have their HECS costs, so all their course fees will be covered and obviously deferrable to HECS if they want. But the reality is that out-of-pocket expense is substantial. We know that. And so for a lot of students, they might consider doing the Graduate Diploma of Aviation Flying. And that means that they can actually defer the bulk of that to HECS help. So they'll do regularly it's an aviation management degree, so the Bachelor of Aviation Management. They'll do the Graduate Diploma of Aviation Flying on the side, defer the bulk of those fees to HECS help, and then they're still going to have an out-of-pocket cost of about $40,000 to $50,000, but it means that for the most part, they're able to kind of balance that in a more reasonable way. So always an option, but really recommend students reach out to us and the School of Aviation. They're very friendly. They're always happy to give students tours and take them around and really work through the nitty-gritty, the financial side of things. So good question.
Great question, and from the Bachelor of Flying to High Flyers, so how's that for a segue?
Great, I'm keen to see where this goes.
I've got a really great question here about business students being able to do internships throughout COVID and throughout lockdowns. And look, the resounding answer to that has been a really big yes, and I'm sure it is the case across a lot of different faculties. Our careers team has worked really hard to be able to pivot their offering, to be able to offer virtual internships and virtual consulting projects with our industry partners. And the interesting way to think about it is that our industry partners were also working virtually, so it did make sense to offer those internships virtually. One of the really great things that we've seen from those virtual internships and virtual practicums is that students are now a lot more comfortable with working as a team remotely. We know that that's something that's going to happen in the business workforce, and in fact probably across quite a lot of workforces in the future. I think it's going to be pretty rare to see teams in the office 5 days a week from now on, although we love being here, don't we?
That's true, it's true. We're probably outliers in the whole scheme of things, though.
Probably, but what we have found as a result of COVID is that it's really important to teach our students, particularly in the business school, how to work as a part of a virtual team and how to work effectively remotely for organisations. So we're actually going to be continuing to offer digital work experience components. So we won't be pivoting all of our work experience to be fully digital, but for those students that do want to take up that experience and gain that skill and have that on their resume when they're going out to recruiters or going out to grad programs, especially for Big Four organisations who are really starting to move into that working from home trend, they're going to have that skill and be able to take that with them into the workforce.
Brilliant. And now, look, I'm going to try and do the impossible and answer 3 questions all in the one answer. It's just off the back of what we were talking about with the new health professional programs. So to give a recap, because one of the questions was, can you remind us what the new programs are? Look, we're branching off into pharmacy, physiotherapy / exercise physiology. So we obviously already offer an exercise physiology program, but merging that with physiotherapy as well to broaden the opportunities available for students. And then also a nutrition and dietetics program. So in terms of the detail of what that looks like, we kind of gave you a bit of a broad brushstroke just before, but it's still going through the final internal approval processes. So most of them are going to be bachelor's / master's degrees, so vertically integrated degrees. But in terms of the details, hold tight. We're going to run an information evening in the middle of the year where we can go through all the nitty-gritty detail. I'm sure you've got questions on, and that your students will equally have questions on. But as you can tell from the team up in Medicine and Health and ourselves, we're phenomenally excited to be introducing these new degrees. Another question, though, off the back of that, and it kind of relates to what you were saying before about how to manage things remotely and the importance of communication, is how do we teach communication in things like allied health? And really, I mean, a huge part of that is actually just the immersion in clinical settings. So it's being able to have students shadow those who are more experienced, to show them how to interact very effectively with patients, but then to be able to gradually ease them in and phase them into the ability to be able to do that themselves and engage firsthand. But it's also, as you say, part of being a team. I mean, students are going to be doing group work from the beginning of their degree. I know some students absolutely hate the idea of group work, but the reality is that it is integral. It's really important to everything you're going to do throughout the rest of your life. And we're always going to make sure that we keep it fresh in terms of the way in which we build those skills and the way in which we run group work projects. But it's going to be the fact that they're going to be part of a team, because health increasingly, as we heard before, is about interdisciplinary collaboration. You're going to be working with people who are doctors, who are nurses, who are in the, across all the allied health professions, who are working in public health and population health, because that's how we solve problems these days. And so it's equipping students with those skills from day one to make sure that when they graduate, they are ready to make the very most of their career in health.
Yeah, fantastic. And on the back of the new programs, I've got a great question here. I know that we did have quite a lot of updates for all of our careers advisors this time last year on the new Bachelor of Commerce at UNSW, but equally we have, I'm sure, sent you quite a lot of communication about our redesign of the 3 other undergraduate programs at UNSW Business School, the Bachelor of Information Systems, Bachelor of Economics, and also the Bachelor of Actuarial Studies. So the question that I have here is about the new BCom and about how students have embraced it. And look, I think with any change, there is always going to be a period of uncertainty, especially if you're the organisation that's implementing the change. But we were really, really happy to see how students embraced the new BCom, particularly the My BCom platform. I'm not sure if you remember this time last year, I was sitting here talking to Christine Matties, who is our academic director for undergraduate programs at the business school, and we were talking about the fact that before classes had even started, we had students on that My BCom platform starting to fill out their career journey, starting to plan their studies, and starting to earn those really valuable B coins as well. We've actually now seen students progress through that whole My BCom first year experience, and they've been able to build out a portfolio and actually take that to employers when they are looking for internships, they're looking for summer programs. We've also, what we've really enjoyed seeing is the community building on that platform. 2021 was an interesting year, and probably not how anyone planned to spend their year, but particularly our student events team and our career accelerator team had planned all of these fantastic on-campus activities that they had to pivot online, and having that My BCom platform and that community already built was just such an extremely positive experience for students to be able to come to the one place and access all of the career development learning that they needed through a really fun online platform. And of course, many of them were able to earn B coins and get a new pair of business school socks.
I mean, the business school socks are always great. I hear you can cash in your My B coins, though, for a coffee with the dean, which surely is one of the peak of networking. So
I don't think anyone has gotten that many B coins just yet, but maybe next year.
Surely. Okay, we'll give a status update this time next year. Look, I might jump into some of the nitty-gritty med questions now. We do get lots of these throughout the year, so good to be able to clarify these now so you can pass them on to your students. I know one careers advisor has said that they saw that there's a minimum of a 96 Atar requirement on the website, but then they had a student who performed, by the sounds of it, very, very well, but fell short of getting 99, but then didn't get an interview in the end. And I guess it's really important to recap the way in which we do the assessment process for interviews and then ultimately for offers. So students are ranked based on their Atar and their UCAT ANZ performance. So it's a combination of those two. Those who are the most competitive are then given an interview offer, and then cumulatively we look at those 3 factors to give out offers to UNSW Medicine. So it's a minimum of 96 that we'll consider, But it's really important to remember that it depends how students performed in the UKNZ as to whether they'll get an interview offer, depends how well they perform in their interview as well. And we saw this year in particular some phenomenal candidates coming through. It was a very, very competitive process, as it often is. Again, for the fourth year in a row, it's been the most highly preferenced program in UAC. So we know that there's the strong demand, and I think it's really important to just moderate expectations with students, be really aspirational, but also keep in mind the fact that there's so many other ways to get into medicine. And I might kind of briefly cover that off really quickly now, and then I'll throw back to you for some more business and law questions. So if a student is unsuccessful in getting into medicine, then our best advice is to really just keep going at it. So begin a degree that they're really passionate about, that they're naturally going to do well in because they're going to put in the extra hours because they're really going to enjoy the material. And then reapply every subsequent year of their undergraduate degree. So what we'll do is we'll look at, provided they meet minimum entry requirements, so we're looking at a minimum of a 70 weighted average mark and a minimum of that, again, 96 Atar, we'll then take the better of their performance at university and their performance in the Atar. So if a student does really, really well in their first year, they get all high distinctions, brilliant, they're setting themselves up in a really competitive situation to reapply. They'll need to keep sitting the UCAT ANZ every year. I like to say to students they will get very good at the UCAT very quickly. They'll also probably get sick of it very quickly, but that's something they'll have to deal with. And so keep reapplying year after year. If you then get to the end of your undergraduate studies and you still haven't got into medicine, not the end of the world. It means that you've now got a degree under your belt and you can apply for postgraduate medical degrees as well, such as those offered by our friends over in Camperdown, UQ, Melbourne. And it means you're really broadening your options. And we really recommend to students apply for every medical school you can because it's very competitive. I mean, the government regulate the number of places available. And so it is really important to keep your options open. Another question as well came through about the lateral entry scheme and how that works. And that's really for students who come into our medical science program. Keep in mind, we get about 200 students entering that program every year. And those who are in their second year, we will just look at their weighted average marks, their university results of their medical science units of study. So they'll still have to do the UCAT ANZ. If they're successful, they'll still have to do an interview. But we take up to 10 students via that pathway every year. Now, it's definitely not a reason to choose medical science. We definitely don't endorse that. Do medical science because you're passionate about medical research. You want to make an impact. But know that this is a bit of a perk to doing medical science is that you could keep reapplying for medicine via that pathway as well. So that's kind of medicine in a bit of a nutshell. And hopefully that helps prepare you for the year ahead, because I know we do always get some of those difficult questions, and having those conversations at the end of the year with students and kind of moderating their expectations, but being aspirational is really, really important. So hopefully that helps. Back over to you, Hannah, after that tangent.
I enjoy the tangent.
Good.
Look, from medicine, I don't have a segue to this one here, but it is a kind of technical question as well. And it's asking about the difference between computer science and information systems. So we know that our Bachelor of Computer Science at UNSW is an extremely popular degree, and we have also got our Bachelor of Information Systems, which sits within the business school. And sometimes people ask me, oh, that's a bit funny, why would information systems be sitting within the business school when it is such a technical degree? But information systems is really where the merging of computer science and commerce kind of comes together. So I spoke to a student late last year actually about this because I didn't study computer science or information systems, so I was always a little bit confused, and he gave a really good explanation actually. And if you think about an app, for example, developing an app, let's say your net banking app, so Commonwealth Bank has decided to develop a net banking app. If a computer science student was involved in that process, they would be involved in the actual physical building of the app. The information systems student comes in when they see the business problem. So they would be involved before, I guess, the app even gets coded to start thinking about the business problem. So, okay, our customers need to access their banking on their phone. And information systems is really developing the strategies and the technology to be able to solve that problem. So our information systems students would come in and create a solution, and then they would give that to our computer science students who would actually do the hard coding of the app. Gotcha. and the actual development of the app. But they would still be, they're two degrees that kind of work really closely together. But if you do have a student that's interested in the technical side of things, but also really business-minded, really interested in problem solving and in technology, information systems is a really good option for them there.
Fair enough. Look, I can see we're frantically running out of time. I'm getting cues from the wings here. So a bit of a rapid fire round at the very end. Rob, in answer to your question, yes, it's a merging of ex-phys and physiotherapy. It's going to be a vertically integrated master's which prepares students for both those areas, so really broadening the array of opportunities available to them in the allied health professions. A question as well around adjustment factors for medicine optometry programs. EAS, the Educational Access Scheme, applies to all of those programs, in fact, all of our undergraduate programs. But in terms of the optometry programs, they're also eligible under EAPL, so our Elite Athlete Performers and Leaders Scheme, but HSE Plus doesn't apply to either of those programs, just due to the competitiveness. That's the nature of it. So hopefully that helps. Hannah, over to you to kind of wrap up.
To wrap us up, I'll just mention that HSC Plus, you might have seen it, we're now offering HSC Plus points for the Bachelor of Actuarial Studies as well. So a really exciting one for your students. But that's all we've got time for today. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me as well. Great to always see you. I look forward to seeing you throughout the year. And obviously stay safe and take care.
And we're going to send you back up the hill, I think.
Up the hill, yeah.
Up to Bianca.
Thanks, Hannah and Nick, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Before we wrap up, I'm going to take you through your key resources for all things UNSW. The first and foremost, and the best in my opinion, is your human channel, and that's me. I'm your central point of contact here at UNSW. I've really enjoyed working with a lot of you closely through the last year. There'll be many a time where I'll be on a phone call. Often I'll be on speakerphone and you'll be in your office with a couple of students, maybe a parent, and we'll talk about everything from degrees across all faculties, admissions requirements, entry requirements. I encourage you to keep those calls coming. In terms of online resources, we have your own page, the Careers Advisors Resources website. This is where you can jump online, see all of our latest news. If you're not on the Educators Monthly newsletter yet, you can always contact me. My contact details are on this webpage. You can also book your brand new undergraduate guide. They're looking fantastic. They're not quite ready yet, but you can pre-order right now, and when they're ready, we'll post them off and bring them along to outreach activities. And most importantly, I think, is book an outreach activity with us. I've already had so many requests streaming in. I'm working my way through them to ensure that our calendar aligns perfectly with your preferred dates. We are gearing up for as much face-to-face activity as we possibly can do, balanced with some online outreach activities. So put your order in, put your request in, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. We're so looking forward to seeing you on campus, at careers markets, and our wonderful student ambassador workforce who are so keen to show students their experience of UNSW. Just can't wait to visit your school and talk with your students. Another thing we'll use this page for is uploading some bite-sized videos. So we will send you the recording of this event, but what I'm going to do is isolate each of the talks and put them on this webpage so that you can go straight to the portfolio entry talk, the scholarship talk, and the double degree sessions. In terms of how you can do a bit of research in your own time, and for students who prefer to do a little bit of research in their own time before asking questions, they can jump on the Degree Finder. And this is a really useful tool you can use while you're in the consultation room with students. It's a really simple search tool. You can search all of our single degrees, our double degrees. You'll see the expanse of all of the unique areas that can be paired together in the double degrees. Each degree is linked to career outcomes, admissions pathways, entry requirements. It's all there. If you do want to see the full UNSW experience, you can go to our UNSW Experience Hub. There is a button there that says Find Your Degree. That will take you to Degree Finder. But if you scroll down, you'll be able to find out more information on Indigenous pathways, entry requirements, co-ops, scholarships, alumni stories, and all of our key events this year. In terms of key events, we've got a really exciting lineup for you. What the last 2 years has taught us is, yes, we definitely miss doing things face-to-face, but the digital environment allowed a greater level of access for our regional and interstate students. So we're going to balance this a little bit. first up, we've got our Med Information Evening. That's going to be digital, streamed live. We'll have the Year 10 Subject Selection Information Evenings digital, as well as our Year 12 Scholarship evenings. But then what we're really looking forward to is opening up the campus to Year 10 students. So if you are thinking about a workshop for your Year 10s, I encourage you to wait for July. Put these dates in your calendar. When the registration link is available, it will be up on our website, and it will also be sent to you in our Educators Monthly newsletter. Last and definitely not least, Open Day. It's the biggest, our bestest event. It's where the entire campus is activated. Hopefully we can do something face-to-face this year. So we're really looking forward to seeing you all then. That's all I've got time for. So I'll welcome Chris back onto camera as we wrap up the event together.
I heard Open Day and I came running. Best day of the absolute year. And maybe I'll make a pledge right now. If we're able to do a physical Open Day this year and welcome everybody back on campus, we'll run a special parallel event for career advisors to welcome them back on campus as well, and look after you in the ways that which we think you deserve. So
I love it.
Just thought of it then. You can quote me on it. It's on camera. We've recorded it. Look, all I wanted to say was thank you again for joining us today. A reminder that we will send you that NESA documentation so that you can include that for your professional development. I hope that you've been able to see lots of the campus today, learn a little bit new. You've been able to see certainly the wonderful team that we have around the place. It's been a privilege to be able to put them all up on camera. And my huge thanks to my broader team across the university who've worked tirelessly to bring this event together, those that you can't see behind the scenes who are out there working hard to make sure you get all this information, and of course Bianca and Anna, who's hiding at the back, who are the driving forces of bringing this event to life. We can't wait to see you back on campus. We can't wait to see you back out in your schools. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wrap it up there, and we hope that you have a wonderful Friday. Stay safe, stay well, and we look forward to welcoming you back onto UNSW campus very, very soon.
You're the person the world needs. Life is changing, and the future is uncertain. You may not know how or why yet, but you know you're here to make a difference. You're not waiting for the universe to give you the answers. You're finding them for yourself. Challenging echoes with evidence. Few people have great ideas. Even fewer make them happen. It takes a dreamer, an explorer, a researcher, a leader, a thinker. It takes someone like